BiOptimizers with an incredible webinar to get started tonight. I'm welcoming everybody from around the world. This one is one you got to buckle your seatbelts for because we're going to share with you a major breakthrough in neurological performance that is going to allow you to multiply your brain performance overnight, boost your focus, your mood, your mental stamina, and crush your goals. And I'm joined today by my co-founder and nootropic expert, Matt Gallant, as the mysterious Mr. Noots, the incredible biochemist that has unlocked an absolute breakthrough that is going to blow away anything that has ever happened in the nootropic industry. Now, before we get started, we got a few things that we need to go through. And that is, you are going to want to pay attention to this webinar. You need to turn off all your distractions. Social media, Facebook, cell phones. We are going to lay down so much information that you've never heard before that you do not want to miss a second of it. Second, unmute your computer, your audio, your speakers and headphones, all of that sort of stuff. This is the time to be laser. This is going to change your life. Type your questions into the question panel, and we have a bunch of health and happiness concierges who will help answer your questions in real time. And of course, if you need any additional help, please contact our health and happiness concierges at support@bioptimizers.com. We have a lot of people on the line today, so we may not get to them all today, those questions, but good news is we will get to your questions. Now, of course, you want to stay tuned to the very end for a special offer, a bonus, a live Q&A with Mr. Noots himself, and a gift, but only for those who stay to the very end. Folks, I am so pumped to get going on this. First and foremost, we're going to talk about a couple of very important issues, such as the root cause of most brain issues. Things like ADD symptoms, where you have poor focus, can't remember what's going on. Brain fog, when you need like 18 ounces, 32 ounces of coffee to get things going, and all the other productivity killers that people are suffering from on a day-to-day basis. We're also going to talk about why most brain supplements don't work. You will never look at them the same way again. In fact, you'll probably just go to the counter and throw them all away after this webinar because you're going to realize there's some basic biochemistry boo-boos that these people are making because they don't have the expertise to build them. We're going to
buy garbage.
The brain nutrient genius. Here's I'm most excited. What we had to do to find this person and to get him to come out of hiding to do this is, well, we can't even talk about it. But the bottom line, he's the secret weapon behind many of the top executives in companies like Google, CEOs, pro athletes, and beyond. You wonder how all those people do all that stuff? You think how they're doing? Guess what? They're enhanced, and we're going to show you how you can be too. Finally, we're going to also add how to pick the right nootropic brain boosting formula for you and your brain's unique needs. Yes, we are going to be talking about customization because nobody in this industry is talking about the biochemical variances of all the different brain types. Well, guess what? We're going to show you how to determine that and how to optimize your brain. Also, not just for what you want in one situation, for multiple different situations, because you need the right product for the right situation. And hold your hats. The biggest breakthrough in brain-enhancing supplementation. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm delighted. Of course, for those who don't know me, I'm the co-founder of BiOptimizer and advisor to the American Anti-Cancer Institute, coached thousands of clients around the world, all that kind of stuff, sold a bunch of books and everything. That's not important. But most importantly, I want to introduce my business partner, Matty G. Now, Matt, he's usually working late into the night. He's not a morning guy, by the way. We've always had fun about that. But he does tend to set up to 2 to 3, 4 times in the morning, whatever, working on a variety of things. And over the last 6 months, using what we're going to share with you today, he's been able to CEO our business at 20% growth rates month on month. Why? Because he's enhanced. He's been a successful entrepreneur for 20 plus years. And I think it's something like 13 or 14 multi-million-dollar companies. He's also a kinesiologist with a Bachelor of Science in Physical Activity. strength and conditioning coach for multiple pro athletes, a self-defense instructor. That's right. You could throw him in a cage. He'll do just fine, or a business room. Over 10 years of experience formulating world-class nutritional supplements. He's been a hardcore Noot user for over 7 years, and he'll kind of share with you some stories he's never reeled before. And he's personally invested over 6 figures on brain performance. I have as well. We know that the quality of your life, the quality of your performance, both in the short term and the long term, has to do with how well your brain is. Of course, BiOptimizers, many people have known us as the premium digestive health company in the world, but that was just the beginning. Matt and I have always been into optimizing our health and performance of people, and now we have been able to serve tens of thousands of clients around the world. Some of the biggest names in the industry: Roger Stipes, Tatiana James, Dave Asprey, Dr. Carolyn Lee, Ben Greenfield, yes, Paul Check. The list goes on. Miss Olympia competitor, Natalia Coella, you name it, they're on our products. Why? They work. Now, here's our mission. Our mission is to end physical suffering by optimizing digestion and activating BiOptimize health. Biologically optimization. You see, here's the standard things. If you're going to your doctor and he says, hey, your signs are normal, that's called a warning sign, because most people are going to be living less than what they could be because of the sheer amount of toxins that we're living in the world, the sheer amount of chemicals and agents and food and all that sort of stuff. It's a struggle out there. We know this. But guess what? People understand if they want excellence, they got to go to the next level. But if they really want to be at the top of the heap, they need BiOptimize health. Biological optimization of every cellular function. So with that, I want to introduce my co-founder, my buddy, and probably one of the greatest nootropic experimenters in the world, Matt Gallant.
Thanks, Wade. You got me pumped, bro. I mean, I was pumped before we started, but I'm now even more pumped. So I'm gonna try to contain my pumpness. So I've been an entrepreneur since I'm really a teenager. Sold guitar lessons when I was 16 and started a business when I was 19. But I kind of lived a double life for a very long time. I essentially became, if you would define it, an alcoholic at the age of 12. I was, as soon as I started drinking, some people kind of have a ramp up phase, or they drink socially and it gets out of hand over a long period of time. I mean, for me, I was out of hand day one. We'd drink till I crawled on the floor. And I kind of, by the age of 15, I mean, it was starting to, and I would just drink on the weekends, I would just go to school, but I would just be basically drunk, Friday, Saturday night. And then I discovered drugs, discovered weed, a bunch of things. And the truth was, it was like a huge upgrade because I wasn't as crazy as I was on alcohol. So I started to casually use drugs, mostly weed, for a long period of time. But, I never liked the loss in function, but I was pretty good at managing it for a while. I was a personal trainer, had a personal training business, and it wasn't too crazy, but it started ramping up in my late 20s. And when I was 28, I got divorced. And that's when I went off the rails. And I went off the rails for 5 years. I moved to Panama, and I started doing harder drugs. I was pretty much intoxicated, 6, maybe 7 days a week. And I started to lose my functioning capability, and we, of course, experienced this. I almost destroyed BiOptimizers. And this was around 13, 14 years ago. It was close, only because Wade and I are really stubborn and just love each other, love what we do. We stuck it out. Anyways, and I'm not going to go too deep in the war stories, but it got bad. And a couple of months before I hit my bottom, my mom, just to give you one example, my mom wrote me a letter the day before I was coming back home, and said that, if you're going to keep doing this, don't come back. So anyways, I hit bottom a couple months after that. By the way, this is the first time I shared this story publicly like this. So apologize if I'm emotional. Anyways, got sober. I've been sober for 11 years, and it's been the, you know, I didn't share that to have pity. In fact, I mean, to me, my addiction is like the greatest gift ever, because it led me to sobriety, led me to spiritual program, you know, a spiritual way of life. And it's, you know, it's the ultimate, it's the most important thing. But as far as how it relates to tonight's story, when I got sober, my brain wasn't functioning that well. My memory was shot. I was starting to forget where my keys were and forgetting words, and sometimes forgetting the names of people. And you know, keep in mind, I'm like, you know, at this time I'm 33, 34, 35. And I hated that feeling. And then, you know, when I was the 5 years out of control, I really didn't do much business. You know, I kind of lived off my previous successes. And I was like, okay, let's start building. And you know, it took me the first 2 years, I'm not doing much in sobriety, and then try to get things going. It was a lot harder. It was a lot harder. And then I started to discover nootropics and other brain enhancing technologies. And it's been the most powerful thing I've ever discovered for getting stuff done and for success. You know, I started regaining my memory. You know, I started using things like lion's mane, which I'm a big fan of. A lot of EFAs and a lot of the stuff we've talked about before, like magnesium. But the truth is, there are things that are way more powerful that can take your brain's performance to a new level. Now, before I met Mr. Noots, I would use nootropics occasionally, and I would use them usually maybe like 5-6 days a month, big days where that were going to be challenging. And I would, you know, I had stacks that worked, and they were powerful, you know, they were powerful. Now, certain things, like there's not much you can throw at me that I haven't tried, from modafinil to injecting cerebral lysin to whatever. I mean, I've done all kinds of brain peptides. But when I met Mr. Noots, which we're going to talk about tonight, everything changed. You know, it was, okay, here's not the next level, but the level after that. That's how profound it was. And as a result, it's changed my productivity to a dimension that I never dreamed of. And it's not just being productive, right? It's feeling awesome. It's about having EQ. We're going to go much deeper into understanding how to become a master of your neurochemistry tonight. And I'm a huge fan of neurochemistry. I've been studying neurochemistry for a lot of reasons, even prior to nootropics, understanding human nature, understanding psychology, which helps with business and marketing, and even mastering your own self. And when I met Mr. Noots, it's like, oh, here's the master keyboard where I can basically shift into any peak optimal state that I want to be in. And we're going to talk about some of those tonight. And, you know, Wade and I have been in this business for a long time, you know, over 15 years. And we've met and work and continue to work with a lot of geniuses, a lot of very, very smart people. And, you know, we try to find people that are far smarter than we are in these different elements. And we've been incredibly successful. And that's how we build the world's best products. But man, I have never met anyone as smart and as next level. And you're going to understand why when we start talking about the innovations as Mr. Noots. So he's been doing chemistry since the age of 6. Okay. When he told me that, it all made sense. By the way, he's in his late 50s. If you're wondering why we're hiding his name, it's because we don't want anyone to know who this guy is. This is our secret weapon. This is BiOptimizer's secret weapon. So I just want to make that really clear. And, you know, when you're talking about building hyper effective supplements, the first of all, the quality of the plant matters, of course, right? Organic and, very well grown, all of these things. But the real key is the extractions. And this is where I have never met or heard of anyone at the level of Mr. Noots. And what he's doing on that's just beyond the beyond. I'm kind of out of words to explain how sophisticated and effective it is. I mean, who cares if it's complicated? What matters is it effective? And I assure you that it is. And then the other thing too, which is always important with any supplement, is the delivery technologies. We'll talk about some of the groundbreaking things, because if you don't get the nutrients where you want them to, whether it's in your brain or your bloodstream, then the effectiveness won't happen. And that's a big issue with a lot of different ingredients and supplements. And for those of you that don't know, I mean, nootropics are absolutely huge in Silicon Valley, in New York, anywhere where you're talking about peak mental performance. Nootropics are heavily, heavily used. And Mr. Noots has been the guy for a lot of the top people in the business world, in the tech world, building what we're going to be talking about tonight. So, it's very important to understand that this is not I hope that it's improving my health type of supplement. Okay. This is not faith-based supplements. These are things that you take and you shift into an optimized version of yourself. And the question really is who is this for? Because if you're one of any of these people that you're seeing on the screen, a marketer, entrepreneur, CEO, executive, financial professional, doctor, lawyer, and anyone who makes money with their brains, then this is going to be such a breakthrough for you, because the more your brain functions and is optimized, the more money you're going to make. And I know, because I've experienced it for the last 5 years since I've been optimizing my brain. I spent $150,000 doing so. So basically, if you're monetizing your thoughts, or if your brain is the key to your performance at work, then investing in these types of brain optimizations pays off multifold, becomes one of the best investments you can make. So with that, I want to introduce Mr. Noots, our secret weapon, and I want him to explain what nootropics are and why they've become such a big deal, and we'll continue from there. Go ahead, Mr. Noots. Say hi to everyone.
Hey. Is this coming through?
Yeah, you sound good. So
Good,
what are
good.
nootropics?
Brain enhancing nutrients or chemicals. So anything that improves, the flow of certain neurochemicals in the brain.
Now, talk a little bit about kind of how it started, and maybe a little bit about how you got started in the world of nootropics.
So nootropics themselves started, as you're probably well aware, in the late 50s, and then late 60s hit its stride with a thing called piracetam, which was kind of the first real solid, reliable, non-toxic nootropic. So
which I've used, and it's okay. I mean, it's you feel I prefer aniracetam, but
yeah.
I mean, what we're talking about tonight is exponentially more powerful.
So it's a great start. Actually, it's a great start. I think that like what I started with is there's if you look at the chemical hierarchy, there's an amino acid called pyroglutamic acid that lives at the top of that racetam chain. And so we used to do 6 to 10 grams of that at night before you go to bed, because nootropics have a tendency to have a processing time and a processing effect. And so while they're doing that, especially if you're doing like mega doses like that, they have a tendency to kind of drag you down, but they also make for really deep sleep when you're doing it that way. And when you wake up, you suddenly have that hot rodded 8-year-old jumping out of bed type effect. Because they've done all their processing, all the neurochemicals are now, at the right levels, and you just feel like a rock star. So
you just highlighted a key issue with a lot of nootropics, including like modafinil. which was the next day, sometimes you feel a drop, like, okay, I was at a peak performance today, which was great. And I was okay with that, with the paying the price. But I mean, the way you're building things, I've never experienced the downs that I felt with other blends. And we'll talk more about that later, but I just wanted to highlight that. So why have they exploded? And again, firsthand as far as the demand coming out of Silicon Valley and stuff, but I'd love to hear it from you.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of activity going, because in Silicon Valley, if you spent any time there, and I've done a lot of venture capital investment and similar, and then worked in a number of Silicon Valley companies. And one of the biggest challenges is how do you, like if you've got a technology advancement, you've got a market advancement, you've got a channel advancement, you've got a lot of money. The big thing is, how do you stay at a high performance cognitive level, as well as physiological, your body level, being at a high level, so that you can outperform everybody else you're kind of quote unquote competing with. And so we saw a lot of this activity going on. For me, it was, in fact, to kind of harken back to your past, Matt.
I'd love for you to share with people what got you into this world, because it's a beautiful story.
Well, there's a two-part on that. One was dropping a friend off at the Portland International Airport, or an airport one night, and or one morning, early in the morning, turning on the radio, and it was a talk show, and there was a guy talking about huperzine A and vinpocetine, which are both naturally derived extracts that increase blood flow and oxygen flow to the brain. And I was always into, at the time I owned an ad agency and another technology company, and I was always looking for how I could stay awake longer, how could put more hours in, and doing all kinds of time shifting to try to do those kinds of things, and sleeping 4 hours a day, and and working in 2.5 hour shifts and those kinds of things. And so this was really fascinating. Well, I was already in Portland, and this guy was not far, so I went and just drove on up. I asked a question on the air, drove on up, met him, and then he started giving me this massive download. He was a PhD in biochemistry, and he gave me a massive download on how the brain works and how these various nutrients and chemicals work to do that. And so he really gave me the test. And I saw what he was doing, and I was really curious. And I had bought this domain at the time, and it was early days of the internet. And I said, "Gosh, I would love to take you online someday." And he wasn't big enough to go online at the time. He didn't have any infrastructure set up. So anyhow, we did that. We did very well. I sold him the company, my half of the company, in the late 90s. And then fast forward, I went through a bunch of challenges. My former wife and I were extremely close and very much into natural health. I got into it when I was diagnosed hypothyroid back in the early 90s, felt like crap, felt suicidal, got on a natural thyroid that an ND who owned a bed and breakfast recommended, and it totally changed my life. And of course, once you've had that experience, like you mentioned, Matt, where you take something and you go, "Oh my God, this feels great, and I'm performing like a rock star. How do I do this again?" And so that kind of started that yearning for that. And then
Awesome.
the last child that we had, all of our children were born at home. One was a hot tub, one was a birthing chair, and one was in front of the fireplace. And the last one, my wife tore a little bit, and she had an episiotomy on the first one. They handed me the snips, actually. I handed them back. I don't think I can cut my wife's vagina. Anyhow, she tore, and so the midwife handed her 4 oxycodone. And that was the beginning of the end. She found her love, the love of her life. Her muse was bottled up in a painkiller and an opioid. And so she very secretly was taking those and building up tolerance, and then building up more relationships with more small doctors, so that she wouldn't trip, any major block to her getting these drugs. So we fast forward to 2000, to 2008, and I'm driving to the house to come. I had another house in another part of the city. Was driving to see her. I got a call from a private investigator who had been watching our house, and they said, "Get here now. There's an emergency vehicle pulling up." And I ran upstairs, and she was surrounded by bottles of oxycodone and OxyContin, a syringe of methadone, and a 1-gallon bottle of really crappy wine. And she had died on what was in, it looked like a suicide about 20 minutes prior to that. So they couldn't resuscitate her. So I got pissed. I'm looking at all these bottles of drugs, and I'm looking at the doctor's name on them. So I went and contacted these doctors and said what was going on. And she was a pretty attractive woman and could just wink and get what she wanted. And so it got me thinking about, how do people get addicted? And I have a sister that's also a heroin addict and has been since she was 13. And she's now 68 or 69. And so I wanted to find a solution to that. And so I buried myself in it, and just really started going hardcore, starting with the stuff that I was familiar with back from the early, or the mid 90s, which was, Huperzine A and some of these different naturally occurring extracts that have a tendency to improve brain function through a number of different channels. And then that got back into, okay, now how do we increase choline levels? What happens when you go over the limit? How do you increase synaptic activity? What are the components of that? How do the different neurochemicals flow into it? So
so let's get into that, right? So because let's shift to it. And first of all, incredible story. I can relate to it. I've had many people that I know pass away from addiction. It's very difficult, but it looks like you've really used that to focus you to help other people.
Did you ever see, Matt, did you ever see Lorenzo's Oil?
No.
Okay, there's a great movie out there about a kid who ends up with a debilitating disease, and the parents go on. It's basically the doctors are saying there's nothing we can do, and these guys are going, yeah, well, we'll see. And so anyhow, it's a great story on how, what happens when somebody you love is suddenly brought down by something, and that this cannot be the answer. The answer can't be next.
Yeah, and it's kind of a good segue because a lot of drugs, right? And again, I was an expert at this, have a significant cost, and a lot of nootropics as well. There's a price you're going to feel, and again, you've really solved that, which I can't emphasize how huge that is. So maybe talk a little bit about that and how you've approached building formulations that you wake up the next day feeling normal. You feel awesome. There's no weirdness.
Yeah, and that's a classic situation. I mean, one of the things that we find with people is either they, people have a tendency towards, another cup of coffee or another bong hit or another drink or another whatever, in order to get them in the state that they want from a neurolinguistic programming, NLP type thing. They want to get into a certain state, and then they want to be able to replicate that state on demand. And the biggest challenge is when you're bringing in something from the outside into your neurology and physiology, there's a line in Blade Runner where the top android is talking to his maker, and his maker says, "Look, Roy, the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long, and Roy, you burn so very, very bright." Well, that's what happens with a lot of people that try either cognitive enhancing or physiologically enhancing. Both you and Wade have done pretty serious bodybuilding and fitness, so you know what that can consist of in that world, where there's a lot of roids going around and juicing those kinds of things. So the byproduct of that is that's not a sustainable program. So it's really important for us to get to a point where what we're doing, the nutrients we're taking every day, the timing we do of them, the foods that we eat, the amount of exercise we do, the kinds of exercise we do, the amount of sleep we get, the bowel flora and getting all those balance happening so that you're not fighting your own internal systems. It's super important to be able to find the components that resonate with your physiology. So you're not taking in some kind of an artificial substance. You're bringing in something that just enhances how your physiology would operate if you were at peak, if you were running at 96% or 97% of your performance without having the cost of toxicity, lack of sleep, and the detritus that forms in the brain from those kinds of things. And so we found it very important to do that. And then there's minimum viable dose. You probably know what that is, where we have a tendency to like overdose, right? Like see how many things we can take all at once and get a result. Will it be cumulative?
That was my life.
Yeah, right. Just one more.
Yeah, just one more. I mean, listen, every addict, we suffer from the disease of more. And, it was a huge learning curve just in general, looking at optimization. And we talk about that quite a bit in our new book that's coming out, Biological Optimization Blueprint, in a few weeks. And there's a huge difference between maximization and optimization, right? And
Yeah.
I'm just naturally wired to try to maximize. But when it comes to the brain, and we're sure, in my opinion, a very beautiful, accurate analogy is your brain really operates like a symphony. And, just like your stereo system, if you crank the bass up to the max and it just sounds horrible, or you crank the treble up too much or whatever it is. So yeah, I think you've really figured out how to, and that's how I've always been approaching the optimization from the last few years, looking at neurochemistry. It's not about just blasting one thing. And when you hit receptors in the body, and it doesn't matter if it's the brain or the body, if you hit them too hard, they downregulate, right? And you can essentially break what are called axes in the body. When you do that, there's a negative consequence. So, what we've really been focusing on is how do we solve that? And I think we've done it. The next thing that needs to be emphasized just really quick, and I'm not scared to take 7, 10, 15. I mean, Wade and I are not scared to take caps. Okay. I've gone as high as like 150 capsules of supplements a day, but the nootropics that we're taking, an effective dose was 7 caps. And with your stuff, it's 1 or 2. And we'll talk about the extraction process, because that is so huge. And I didn't understand how significant that was until I experienced it. And just wanted to emphasize that. Another thing you're big into is resetting the receptors, which, going back to, again, if we look at coffee, I think almost everyone's experienced this. Okay, you go from not drinking coffee to drinking your first cup of coffee. You're kind of flying, right? There's an euphoria. You're energized. Some people don't like it, can't handle it. But then after a few days, it just kind of takes you from tired to normal. And then to get more, you just got to keep kind of upping the dose. And that's the problem with just pounding receptors over and over again, right? You need a bigger and bigger dose. But one of your strategies, which we'll talk a little more about in a few minutes, is resetting the receptors, which is huge. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Well, that's actually a great one. It's a great segue on there. So as we were developing these formulas, at the time, I was running a software company that was in the cognitive performance world. So we created software that Hallmark writes all their greeting cards with, although that's probably not a great testimony. But Drew Carey writes all this comedy with it. And who's the pastor for? There's a mega church in just outside of Laguna, inland from Laguna. Rick Warren. Rick Warren wrote his book with it, and then we sent copies of our software to every one of his associate pastors worldwide. so they could write sermons with it, because it basically tied the left and right brain, you know, hemispheres of your brain together and helped you to think more creatively.
Okay,
So I had these.
hold on. I got to stop you right there, because that's such a huge point. And to really create a peak mind, you know, and some people are like naturally heavy left brain, you know, people that are analytical accountants, very logic driven. And then
Yep.
I have friends that are like almost purely right brain, you know, painting 40 pieces of art during the winter, but they can't function, right? They struggle for function. Now, I would say, and I've run tests and I've seen tests, that the most successful entrepreneurs are right and left brains. So anything we can do to synchronize your brain waves, which we've also trained and huge fans of, but anything you can do to get right and left hemisphere connections is huge. So maybe talk about how significant that is, because it's not just focus and all these things we're going to talk about. That is, in my opinion, one of the biggest things.
Yeah. So lateral thinking, which is where that kind of comes in, is the ability to connect disparate pieces of information, both past and present, that you've maybe run across. Pattern recognition is what it's kind of called in the end, and being able to then apply it. That's the biggest challenge. Is we have all the information is available to us. There's no lack of information or access to information or tools to access information. But processing that information in meaningful ways so that you can actually do something of value for you, whether it's creating a new product or figuring out a new marketing message or finding a way to dissect and reverse engineer your previous successes so that you can repeat it. All of those things take a lot of lateral thinking. And if you don't have it, you end up repeating the same mistakes, or you end up stepping all over yourself trying to get to this thing accidentally. But you're basically doing tons and tons of outflow, hoping that one or two pieces will stick long enough that you'll get enough success that you can actually write on it. And that's a really undependable way to do life. We think that a more reliable way is to be able to connect those two pieces together and then gently put an envelope around it that allows you to a really safe place to play that still explores the edges of your creativity, your innovation, your focus, and your follow through. So, because we have this kind of internal thing that we've been dealing with for the last 30 years, which is how do you move from creativity to productivity, and how do you get the idea hamsters? How do you get an idea hamster to continue to create innovative ideas, but execute on the ones that count, that will keep them in business and alive and thriving? And that's kind of what one of the big things for me. I'm like the poster child for ADHD. Matt, you've known me long enough now to know that
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's really, really important to be able to harness that thing, to be able to take that spark or that flame and be able to put it somewhere. Or like you said, with this orchestration, this neurological orchestration of all these different hormones and biochemicals and neurochemicals and synaptic enhance, and be able to make all that stuff work together in such a way that you're not working. The machine is working for you, and you're showing up to participate and execute. And I think that's exactly what's going on when you have the right balance of good health, harmony in your life, and then these instruments like Nootropics can be more than the icing on the cake. They can be the thing that accelerates you. It's the blower on your
it's a life changer. It's a game changer. I mean, listen, I love supplements. I love everything we've done, and they work really well. But this is like changes life in a profound way. And I want to get into just a quick few panels explaining the key neurotransmitters and hormones that we can impact with different stacks and ingredients to create different music. And we're talking about becoming masters of neuromodulation. And what that means, what modulation means, is we can tweak things up, down, and we can tweak multiple things. And the neuro is what we're going to talk about. So the first big one, which most people have heard about, is of course dopamine. And you've got, and I will say this, almost every single person that's hyper successful, and there's genetic reasons for this, have extraordinary high levels and very powerful dopamine systems. It's the brain's reward system which drives learning and achievement. And I'm genetically wired. I see it in my genome. And again, any addict or alcoholics can have a strong dopamine system. And if we harness it, though, if we use it the right way, we're hyper productive, hyper successful usually. So it's a very, very powerful thing. And with your stacks, with certain ingredients in certain capsules, we can activate that in a very powerful way. So maybe talk a little bit about how some of the stacks activate dopamine, and how you, again, playing things like recirculation and things like that, we can produce profound effects.
Well, so yeah, that's a great one. And I'm gonna backtrack for just a second and talk about minimum viable dose versus optimum dose, then versus custom dosing. But one of the things we found was that every one of the nutrients that we've ever run across has a Gaussian curve or a bell curve of performance. Too little, like if you're underdosing, you don't feel anything. Too much, and you get all kinds of weird side effects. Thankfully, most of them are just temporary, but still, they're side effects you have to deal with. So instead of getting a high performance day, you end up getting a shitty day. And then there's that Gaussian curve, the top of the bell, in about a 1/3 of the top of that bell, where you've got the right amount for your weight, height, your age, your health conditions, the meds you're on, the other nutrients and supplements you take, how your bowel flora is working, what you did that day, when you ate. All of those factors come into play, so that once you start being aware of these factors and how they influence your performance, you'll find that your performance will step up considerably. Most people are running at between 40 and 65% effectiveness in their day, because they've just basically, they're the frog boiling. They've gotten used to getting X amount done, or spending X amount of time at a specific task and getting that done, instead of going, hold it, back off for a second and say, what could I do? What's a thing I could do right now to be faster, effective, or things like that. There's a guy named Tony Schwartz that talks about energy management, a huge deal on that. A lot of people say, what do I do at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm suddenly crashing because I had, too much to eat at lunch? And a lot of people say, oh, you just power through it with, some caffeinated, a 5-hour energy or whatever. We say, no. Take a power nap for 17 minutes, focus on your breathing, get into state, come out of it. And if you've done nootropics, especially, then at the end of that event, you'll be more productive than you were possibly even this morning. And it's a really important thing to do. So
I got to jump in on that, because this has been the biggest thing. I mean, I'm a hyper productive guy, but I used to crash around 1:30, 2 o'clock. Especially after long, this year's been the first year I've never taken a vacation. Panama, where I live, was in the hardest lockdown in the world. 5 months. I had 4 hours of freedom a week. Otherwise we would get arrested. Okay. But since discovering these stacks, it's been no crashes, 10 to 12 hours. I'll let Wade talk about kind of what's happening in the business a little bit later as a result of it. I mean, writing 300 pages, finishing a book and a third of the way through in another book. It's just been incredible. Like, there's no crashes anymore. That's just gone. And I can't emphasize how huge that is. I feel like I've got just double the day that I used to have. And I would caffeine myself out of it or whatever. But it's just not as effective, Anyways, let's move on to serotonin. serotonin, huge mood stabilizer. Obviously, most people that have depressive states have serotonin issues. And I work with people that have addiction issues. And one of my sponsees has massive depression sometimes. And it's, if your serotonin system is broken, it's a big issue. And it's also one of the main reasons why people overeat. One of them, I mean, serotonin and dopamine are the main neurochemical drivers behind overeating. There's ghrelin and other things, but the payoff people get from the sugar is usually serotonin. Now, I've done neurochemistry tests and I'm serotonin deficient. So when I boost my serotonin with some of the stacks or things like Xamarin juice, which we're going to talk about, it just gives me that serotonin boost and it just changes the entire quality of the day. It's hard to describe, but maybe talk a little bit about your take on serotonin.
Oh, absolutely. I have a tendency, I've had a tendency, especially when I was hypothyroid, toward depression. And there's actually a family history of that. So I've had the opportunity to both watch it and experience it. And if you've ever had it, it's a very dark hole. When you get serotonin rocking, not too much, there's a thing called serotonin syndrome that's ugly. But when you get serotonin happening at decent levels, you get this, there's an interesting thing.
Life is awesome. Life
it
feels
is. And
good.
You'll take a situation that would normally be upsetting, or if you're on the verge of depression, anybody that's ever had depression will know what I'm talking about when I say you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, even if a good thing is happening, you're waiting for the shit to go down because you know that it can't last. When you've got a good balance of serotonin in your system, that goes away and it's replaced with, I wonder what other cool thing is going to happen now. And which is a radical shift. It's not an incremental shift. It's a radical shift. And it's not a manic, like hyper, phase.
Yeah, it's not adrenaline.
No, hell no. It's just chill, cool. Things are rocking. I can handle this. And it's an optimism that is a natural optimism embedded in our systems, wanting to come out and play.
Now, this one here has a bad rap, cortisol, and a lot of people have cortisol levels that are too high for sure. However, cortisol is really important, and I'm going to share a key pro move on how to optimize your day. So usually there's a cortisol spike in the morning, right? And the challenge is a lot of people love to wake up and drink coffee. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when people crash in the afternoon, usually one of the main reasons is a cortisol crashes. Now that's a great time. And we'll talk about how to use different capsules at different times to produce the perfect day. And one of the techniques is to time your nootropic dose, the stack dose, with the cortisol dropping. Maybe talk a little bit about that technique, Mr. Noots.
So yeah, it's super important. As you know, as a bodybuilder, you have to have a balance of, or as an athlete, you have to have a balance of cortisol in your system. Otherwise, your hormone levels go out of control and you start getting aggro and everything else. But if you don't trigger your basically your adrenal system in the right way to produce some cortisol, you won't get motivation and action. And you'll also have inflammatory issues and some other stuff that come along with that, which then just compound. And because you can't narrow down what the problem is, you start chasing all kinds of stuff. That's where you get polypharmacy, as people start taking multiple meds to try to solve a simple problem, and suddenly they've got a complex problem on their hands. So yeah.
Now, as far as actual high level functioning, acetylcholine is arguably one of the absolute most important neurotransmitters. I mean, if you're talking, and I'd say right now, there seems to be a massive issue with acetylcholine in the world. And how do we know that? Because attention span just keeps dropping. They're saying it's down to 8 seconds, which is the level of a goldfish. And when people are acetylcholine deficient, they can't focus, right? And I've experienced I'm actually acetylcholine dominant naturally, but there's been times, for an example, and you can eat eggs. Like eggs is a great source of acetylcholine. There's been times where, this is before I discovered these protocols, these stacks, but I remember just not eating eggs for a long time and noticing I was just struggling to focus, which is unusual for me. And then I just took acetylcholine and it fixed it. So maybe talk about the function and the importance of acetylcholine when we're talking about peak performance.
So think of it as the microphone and speaker of, right, of except it's two-way, of a good dialogue. When you have a good dialogue going on, if you're on a speakerphone in a car and you keep getting skips and you get delays and you get echoes, it's really, really difficult to have a genuinely rewarding discussion, because you're just trying to keep up with the cognitive overload of trying to figure out what the hell was just said and what the response needs to be. And then you're trying to chase the delay or the rest of those elements. With good acetylcholine levels, what you're doing is you're programming a bit, and you're running that bit across a neuron gap to the receiving neuron, so that you can actually transfer the information across. With good, proper, balanced acetylcholine levels, your cognitive performance is radically improved. And your ability to recall elements and details is much higher, and your long-term memory is highly functional. And it's just it's critical. It's super critical.
Speaking of memory, noradrenaline. So noradrenaline is a key thing that when you want to take action, whether it's, lifting weights or whatever, that it's a very, very important hormone. Noradrenaline, cortisol, adrenaline all have interplay, but maybe talk a little bit about the function of noradrenaline as far as how it relates to mind.
Well, especially for nootropics, when we were building stack design in the early days, one of the things we found was that an individual, during the processing, the kind of decomposition of the nootropics through the blood-brain barrier into the brain and breaking apart into the pieces that it needs to play with, whether it was dopamine or serotonin or acetylcholine, is if you introduced a small amount of noradrenaline into your system, which you can do very easily with cayenne pepper or something similar to that, where you don't even notice that it's hyping up your system at all. In other words, you're not going into that kind of fight or flight overdrive that's adrenaline and noradrenaline are known for. You get into this awakening, and what that does then is activates the key neurotransmitters that now allow you to do things like memory. You'll notice that when you've been in a scary event, right, noradrenaline's peaked, you'll notice that your recall of those events, even if they're inaccurate, are vivid. And that's a key thing. So yeah, noradrenaline is not to be, it's so important to the processing that we actually incorporate little bits and pieces to cause activity that you don't even notice you don't notice any energy rise in your body necessarily at that.
Like going back to the symphony, right? It's like some of the background instruments that are laying the foundation for the violins and the vocals to shine.
Yeah. It's that French horn coming on, or that extended bass note on the stand-up bass coming on, and setting a foundation so that everything else can actually do its work without dragging your body down in performance.
So next, anandamide, which is one of my favorites, and that's one of the, I'll talk about, we're going to share a new document we've created called the Brilliant Mind Blueprint. And in it, I share a coffee recipe that I love to use and use in conjunction. There's a lot of tips on how to get the most out of these stacks. And when you boost anandamide, I mean, life is pretty awesome. It's they call it the bliss molecule for a reason.
Oh yeah.
Can you talk about a little bit of that, Mr.
Well, that's if you've ever smoked weed, you've likely experienced anandamide at work. So yeah, and that's that feeling. What it does, if you take a look at it kind of holistically at 30,000 feet. It removes the tentacles of having to control everything in your life, and it allows your life to flow. It's not the pure flow state thing, but it is definitely a component that assists flow state.
This is a big one, huge, because I've directly tried a lot of compounds that hit GABA, and it's a profound shift. You know, if you boost GABA, life looks pretty different. So maybe talk about how we optimize GABA and when do we want to optimize GABA? Because a key point I want to make when we're covering all these parts of the symphony is depending what you want out of your day, you're going to want to shift different instruments, right? Like sometimes you want to listen to electronic dance music, sometimes rock, sometimes jazz, sometimes classical music. And with the control that we're going to give you, this is why you're becoming masters of neurobiomodulation. But it's understanding what these things do, and we're going to give you the stacks that achieve different effects. But it's important to understand this because we're going to talk about how we can personalize and customize to a level that no one else on the planet is doing to achieve what you want. And it's all about you. Everything we're talking about tonight is to help you become who you want to be. And this is a key one. So Mr. Noots, talk about the importance and the power of GABA.
So George Rabinovich, who's on this call, was talking about how Tim Ferriss, I believe, introduced him kind of to nootropics way back in the early days. He was doing those in the 90s. And absolutely. And his stack, which if you take a look at, there are some other stacks that are focused on alpha state in the brain, where they use GABA as a main component. And you can get extracted GABA. Extracted GABA.
It's a horrible absorption.
What's that?
Horrible absorption. It's got a very
horrible
poor
absorption. It doesn't, and the molecule's too big to pass the blood-brain barrier. But there's a number of nootropics and amino acid nootropic compounds that do pass the blood-brain barrier, separate, and then accelerate GABA activity. And when you accelerate GABA activity, you find yourself going into a very smooth, quiet, easygoing, nothing can mess with you. We call it unfuckwithable state, excuse my language, but it gets you into a state where all of the pressure of execution goes away and the knowledge of knowing how to execute flows in, and it allows you to do that without having those anxious points, which would be obviously another neurotransmitter, and allows you to just operate at a very high level for very extended periods of time because you're not draining tons and tons of energy to get there. It's not a brute force approach. A good GABA-centric, GABA-ergic supplement will keep you relaxed but awake and functional. Anybody that does theanine with like their bulletproof coffee or whatever has that experience of a decent GABA level activity happening.
There's another huge function of it, which is for social command. Whether you're selling, you're speaking, you're at an event, you're networking. I'm slightly on the introverted side. And one of my hacks when I want to be more social and extroverted is to boost GABA. And it's very profound, you know. It really helps make socialization easy. I become extroverted. I mean, it's not just, it's pretty incredible what happens. And I know a lot of other biohackers that do that.
Yes, agreed.
Adrenaline, not going to talk too much about it, but it's highly related to cortisol, noradrenaline, and it helps. You know, I mean, adrenaline is one of the key things when you're working out, and of course, it helps propel you into solving problems.
Yeah, well,
anyways,
every pre-workout is in one way or another an adrenaline booster, right?
And again, what we're looking to help you become is a maestro of your mind. And because with these breakthrough brain stacks that we're about to talk about, you can control these 8 key factors and a lot more, and create the perfect state for your success every single day. And again, we have different types of days. Sometimes if I'm working by myself and I just want to write and be, super focused, I'm going to take a different stack than if I'm talking to people, I'm going to an event. Now, we need to talk before we get to the stacks. And I know a lot of people are just, chomping at the bit here. We need to talk about why this is so exponentially next level than anything that's ever been put on the market. And we talked about the extractions. I know some of the things that you do, you extract 11 times. And it's just incredible, the effects. And maybe talk about how when you keep extracting, the effects actually change, because that's very, very mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, it's so there's a lot of ways to do extractions, and a lot of laboratories use caustic chemicals, acids, and really what I consider kind of like very much foreign elements. If you had sometimes just drops of that element, it would kill you, instantaneously. So we went the other direction, where we thought that vodka level alcohol, distilled water, trying to keep the temperatures as low as possible, 110 degrees or below, so you don't also decimate the enzymes present in the plant matter.
Right.
Using sonic extractions, 26 kilohertz to 120 kilohertz, and then varying those things. And what you find is that every time you do an extraction of a specific plant matter or compound, is that the way that the carbon or the nitrogen or the bonds, basically the internal bonds on the molecule, start changing dramatically, and they create either become closed and they don't bond to anything, they won't digest, they won't, you can't get anything out of them, or they open up. And if you get them to open up to a very high level, then bioavailability is no longer a problem. And now you can do, I don't want to call it tricks, but you can basically take advantage of that bonding element, and you can hook another nutrient to it that will amplify the effect of what you're trying to accomplish. So if you're trying to accomplish a metered level of acetylcholine to improve memory and cognitive function in a very regulated way, you want to make sure that you have the right kind of combo. So it's breaking down in the gut at the right speed. It's going into the bloodstream at the right rate. It's being uptake through the brain, through the blood-brain barrier. It's passing that, and it's getting into the brain, or it's going into the blood-brain barrier, separating there, and it's then able to kind of meter itself into place. And if you don't extract correctly, you can either bring toxins into your neurology and your physiology, or you get very limited results. There are some compounds. We have one compound that we work with extensively, where 10 grams equals 21 milligrams of bioavailable product, unless we do these radical extraction processes, multi-level extraction processes using very low heat, if any heat at all, using vibrations, sonic and ultrasonic vibrations, and using vacuum, and then varying the rate of nitrogen in the actual atmosphere of it, and then varying the quality of the distilled water or ionized water and the alcohol, the concentration of alcohol or DMSO or whatever, and then making sure that we pull all of that stuff off of it before it ever becomes either a powder or a liquid or a capsule. So we basically, all of our stuff has zero extraction compound in it. It just has exactly what we're trying to accomplish.
Let's go to the next one. And one of the reasons that you and I instantly bonded, no chemical pun intended there, we bonded deep, is because we have the same approach. And I was working on stacks for multiple years, looking at biopathways and neuropathways. And this is how we formulate almost everything that we've done, from Capex to Masszymes. We don't look at things in isolation. We look at, well, there's a multitude of conversions that happen. What can we add that will help these enzymatic conversions, or in the brain? It's again these 8 different instruments, and there's different nutrients that affect different parts of the conversion. I mean, just to use magnesium as an example, it's a key part of producing serotonin, which helps produce melatonin. I'm just using that as a biopathway example. Now, the brain has, again, the same system happening. And this is where there's no one, again, in your league. And I thought I was pretty good and I was creating some cool things.
You are good.
But as far as the brain, I mean, I have never seen anybody that understands how to change these 8 different instruments in the band and optimize that. So, you know, that's and what happens when you do that, it's one of the reasons why like 1 cap of these products are worth 5 to 10 caps of a normal nootropic, is you're magnifying the potency without smashing systems, without trying to overdose on one thing, which again, most energy products, for an example, are just high dosages of caffeine.
Right.
And we can potentiate all these different things and produce something that's much more powerful and sustainable, again, without the crashes.
Yeah, and that's a key to it, is how do you make it? There's a thing called neurogenesis. I don't know if you were gonna hit on this tonight or not. So I'm gonna lead into it.
I it's one of my favorite topics. so we can talk about it. Go ahead.
Is this a good time?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So
always a good time.
One of the cool things about organic neurotropics is that they stimulate the generation of new neurons. And where that becomes really, really interesting is if you consider that every neurodegenerative disease relies on the decay or the destruction of neurons. So when you can basically provide the raw products for your body, for your brain, and you can ping it and say, create new neurons now, you get a couple of really cool things happening. One is, of course, you get more cognitive performance. You can think about more stuff. You can manage more mental stuff. You can take more mental stress. You can articulate things better in a more meaningful way. And you can also do things like intuitively recognize your audience, and you can sing to that audience. You can play the instrument to that audience literally in the middle of a guitar chord. You can mute and go into the exact arpeggio needed to be able to get them leaning in their seats forward, excited about what the next note's going to be. So your brain operates like that. And when you get that neurological assist happening, it not only puts a firewall between mental detritus and performance, it actually produces new neurons that you can program, and you can create new neural pathways. For people with trauma, this is an incredible way to reprogram the brain so that the trauma becomes a very much a sub thing, and the new thinking becomes the dominant process without you having to work hard at it, because those new fresh neurons are waiting for some acetylcholine flow or dopamine flow to trigger them to say, oh, this is the direction we want to go. This is the outcome we want to have. This is the memory we want to have. This is the knowledge we want to possess. And it allows you to do that in a very meaningful way.
Next, and again, this is such a big deal, is delivering the actual nutrients in the part of the body you want, whether again, it's your bloodstream, cells, in this case, brain. And there's a few huge innovations. One of my favorites is a cap in a cap, which what happens is we can create capsules that either dissolve or don't dissolve at different pH levels. And of course, the stomach is incredibly acidic, which is great. Again, there's certain things you want to dissolve in the stomach and there's no issues. But the things that you want to protect, there's a different capsule technology that can withstand acids However, once the pH starts hitting the 6 range, it bonds and merges with the liquid around it. So we can release things in the small intestinal tract and go directly to the bloodstream and protect it from the acids. I mean, that's one of the most brilliant innovations here that you brought to the table. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Well, so there are kind of like four plus levels of induction into the body, right? You've got sublingual, where you put it under the tongue and it absorbs and avoids the liver, and it gets, hopefully gets directly into the bloodstream. And there are certain nutrients that work really well like that, and others that don't do that at all. They need to be broken up by the acid. Then you've got liposomal, where you wrap it, you basically wrap the the atomic element, the nutrient that you're trying to absorb, you wrap it in lecithin, or the same thing that cells are made of. The outer structure of the cell is made of a phosphatidylserine, phosphatidylcholine type of layer. And so you're basically replicating that and making it so your body, your stomach is able to really quickly absorb that. And that works really well for certain things. Like, classically people know vitamin C, and now with COVID happening, they know some of the other antioxidants that can be really effective with that. So then you've got vegetable and traditional gelatin capsules, which will develop. They typically dissolve in the stomach, in the acid of the stomach. So they like to see a 3.8 to 5 level acid in the pH scale. And then they start, breaking apart and doing their magic. But certain nutrients are destroyed in stomach acid. And so what we did was we ran into this problem. And the last one we got was enteric coatings. So enteric coatings are natural coatings that go around vegetarian capsules in our case. And what they do is they delay the release of whatever's in that cap until your body hits until it hits a certain level. And for us, it's like post-duodenum for some things. So that upper level just after the stomach, and in the intestines, it starts to break apart right there. And then we can regulate that as well. We can go, okay, you've got to be there for 15 or 20 minutes before we break apart. And that way, with a dual capsule system, you can actually have some of the elements that work really well with the stomach and the acid and the enzymes that are available in the stomach. We can get it to break apart there, and then we can get the secondary part to break apart much lower in the gut, and into the intestines, so that when it goes through the walls there and it's absorbed into the bloodstream, it can meet the other components that broke apart in the stomach, that were absorbed in the stomach, and it can combine then in the bloodstream and do these incredible feats that you couldn't do with one or the other of those components at all, because you just can't get enough of that component in the bloodstream and effective. It needs the part that broke apart in the stomach acid, or it needs a part that broke apart in the base that's lower in the gastrointestinal tract.
The last one I'll quickly talk about, and by the way, this is a huge power move, as we love to call them, and you'll see a little more information on that in the PDF document we're going to share very shortly, which is to combine and use oils and any oil-based nutrient, oil-based vitamin, and stack them all at the same time. And that's why I shared my Zamner coffee recipe in the document. And that's one of the things that can do that. And for example, this is an example, CBD. If you take CBD with a high-fat meal, this is what the research says, you get 8x more absorption. So this is a huge revelation. And again, that's one of the things you'll see in some of the capsules. They're oil-based. So the pro tip here is take all your oil-based supplements. If you're taking omega, krills, any plant-based oils, any MCTs, again, bulletproof coffee, whatever it is, these fats stack together, and oils can carry certain nutrients, and certain oils can cross the blood-brain barrier. And we've been using an incredible oil from something called the intellect tree, which helps bring nutrients directly to the brain. So another huge thing. But here's the breakthrough. Okay, here's the mind blower. Okay, no pun intended. We're talking about total customization in every capsule. You read that correctly. This is a totally new level of the game. None of this is mass marketed, mass produced products like all of our existing supplements are. Virtually every supplement that's ever been made is. What we're doing is we've created base formulas that produce certain effects. Then you're going to fill out a questionnaire as soon as you place your order. And then we're going to customize every single capsule based on your intake form. Okay, we're going to tweak things to basically play the music that you want to play, right? I mean, going back to the symphony, we want to help you achieve what you want to achieve. We're basically helping co-create the music with you, right? Then it gets even better. Then you're going to fill out a feedback form, track what happens. We're going to be giving you a multitude of options. We're going to get into that in a minute. And then you give us feedback and we tweak it further. Again, no one has ever done this. I mean, if you've been buying supplements for a long time, you understand how you've probably never seen this before. I mean, yeah, there's people where you fill out a form and what they do is they have maybe 8 formulas that are, that are a step above just giving the same thing to everyone else. But this is absolute customization. Again, there are base formulas, but we tweak for every single person, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And, let's talk about the 180,000 tests basically that you've been doing, that we've been doing for a while now to figure out how the brain works and how to create the perfect product for different people. I mean, again, we love testing. It's a huge part of what we do at BiOptimizers, and that's why we are BFFs here on a Zoom call.
I love it. So we, when we started this, we did literally thousands of tests, sending our preliminary product designs and developments to some of the smartest people that we knew. We had just under 400,000 customers in our software company, doing this brainstorming and cognitive performance software. So we had these really smart people to send stuff to. And so they had to kind of put up with our crap because it tasted just like crap. In fact, one of my best friends said, "Oh, I know why this makes me feel more alert. It tastes so bad." So, if anything tastes that shitty, I would wake up. So anyhow, so that's the same thing. So at this point, we have over 15 million data points from our customers over time who have given us feedback on what meds they're on, how much they weigh, what age they are, their sexual performance, their food, their athletic performance, every factor that we could take from them. And then we looked at those, we started looking at that data on a weekly basis and going, aha, if you're 180 pounds, you're 6'1", you work out twice a week, or you train twice a week, you drink 3 liters of water a day on average, your workouts are high intensity interval training for 50 minutes, and here are the challenges that you have right now that you're trying to overcome. Here are the products you bought. We know how to modify the formula in each of those capsules or powders or drinks or sprays or drops in order to kind of align with people within that category that perform well. And then when you take a couple of doses or a few doses, you'll use a feedback form, and that'll let us know, aha, so your anomaly on that formula, based on all the other factors we have, says that you need to get a little bit more of a cholinergic, or you need to get a little more of a dopaminergic, or a serotonergic, or you need a different stim stack that lasts longer and has a quieter fall off, or you need one that attacks faster, or you need so we get the opportunity to hyper fine tune that for you so that you have the capacity to keep achieving results. If you've ever taken a nutrient or supplement or food or drink or bong hit that quit working over time, that's either downregulation or upregulation of certain receptors in the brain or the body. And we combat that with being able to infinitely tweak your formulation to be able to match those needs. All the way to the fact that sometimes the formulation that you purchase and what you receive are so radically different. Somebody purchasing the same nutrient, the same supplement stack wouldn't get that, they would get something radically different. Now, we don't just necessarily remove all the products and do something completely different. We change the ratios with this deep understanding that we've got from this massive MySQL database that we've been mining forever.
So what a bunch of us have been doing, including Mr. Noots, myself, Wade, many others, is we've been creating stacks. And again, combining our knowledge and creating different stacks for different effects. And again, every single order is customized. And what we've done is we put together 3 levels of winning, 3 offers, depending on what you need. Some people are don't want world domination, and that's cool. But they want to be able to activate brilliance on demand, as an example. So we've got you covered. Now, what we've done is we've created 4 different stacks. And there's a lot of ways you can use these stacks, which we cover in the document that we're going to start sharing. And this document is, again, the Brilliant Mind Blueprint. And we share, even one stack, you can use it a whole variety of ways. So I'm going back to the cortisol example, timing, if it's 2 different products, 2 different dosages, or 2 different combos, you might want to take one in the morning, one at noon, or vice versa, or both together at a certain time. So there's a lot of ways to play with these, and it's a lot of fun. So the first stack is the Genius Activator, and it's a drink with a capsule, and the drink tastes awesome. And you will feel it very quickly. And it's awesome. And you can kind of sip throughout the day to kind of keep the effects rolling. And one of the things that I love, and we're going to do a whole FAQ, and again, we're willing to go all night long. We are optimized. Our brains are optimized. We can go literally all night long over to here. But what I love about these stacks is that they don't screw with my sleep, and I'm a total sleep diva. If I don't get my sleep, I just don't feel good, and my brain doesn't operate at its best. So one of the big things, and of course, I'm sure we've all experienced taking a stimulant too late in the day, not being able to sleep. I've never, ever had issues with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different combinations, which is absolutely incredible. The next stack, which is what I'm on right now, is Social Command. And this is the one where you're talking, you're presenting, you're selling, you're going to an event, and or you're going to a party, you can use these socially as well. If you want to be on and just improve your verbal fluency, make you more extroverted, this is awesome. Next is the Neuro Breakthrough. Again, another great stack. And you got to play with these and see which ones your brain loves. And again, we can customize the stack. We can even change the stacks around, which we'll talk about. The next one is the one that I take when I want to be in, focused savagery, focused ferocity, that when I want to just, put my headphones on and borrow into work on my computer and type as fast as I can and work fluidly in a flow state for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Last Friday was 10 hours nonstop. Okay. No breaks, no nothing. I was eating at my desk, and, my only quick break was a quick bio break, and no drops, and that's, listen, going back to my recovery, there was a time where 20 minutes of focus took everything I had. Now I can do 10 hours straight. So it's pretty incredible what the difference is with or without these things. So just to go a little bit over each one, the Genius Activator is it's near instantaneous. You start drinking the drink, and again, depending how much you drink, it'll hit you faster and harder, but you can time the drink and release the drink, and it comes with a booster essentially that, again, you can time the booster based on when you want to extend the effect. And this is where cortisol matters. I talked about social command. Again, it's incredible for mood and ability to be upbeat. And one of the stacks we're giving you is called Upbeat. And I absolutely love Upbeat. I'm on it right now. Like I said, I'm on the social command stack. And it boosts not just your verbal fluency, but your mood. And with that, emotional intelligence, you're able to connect with people more, which of course is a beautiful thing. So it will elevate your communication levels to another level. It just does. All right, next we talked about neurogenesis, and neurogenesis is, again, we're talking about growing more neurons, and you can change your personality. You can develop new character traits by shifting your brain through neurogenesis and through something called neuroplasticity. And this is one of my favorite stacks. It's a great one to use frequently because you just feel good. And again, it's not as intense as the fourth stack. And it's a great kind of regular day, but you want to be at your peak or at your best type kind of stack. Again, like I said, this is the one where, you want to get really focused. This is the one, it's very powerful and you will definitely feel it. So we've got 3 levels. I'm going to let Wade discuss what all of these things entail. And it is a different price point, but the value that you're going to get, again, if you're monetizing your brain, it's going to pay for itself multiple times over. So I'm going to give it to Mr. Wade Lightheart.
First, I want to thank both of you guys for joining us today. I think it's great for everyone to be kind of a fly on the wall with what it's really like to get inside some of these neurochemical combinations. And you kept it in a language and spot that all of us can understand and comprehend. And I really appreciate you both adding those elements to kind of explain some of the nuances of these incredible life-changing products. So there are 3 ways to get started: brilliance on demand, focus, ferocity, and world domination. Please use the last one with the utmost caution. Brilliance on demand. So basically what you're going to get in brilliance on demand is 4 doses of breakthrough brain stack 1. This is the social command one. This is the one you're a little bit anxious, you're not sure that you're going to be able to say the right things or do the right things or be kind of the life of the party or be able to smoothly transition those social situations. This is the product that you are going to absolutely love. Total verbal fluidity, easy command of language, and almost like it's hard to explain, but it's kind of like a next level of empathy and communication with the people that you want to connect with. Plus, you're going to get 4 doses of the breakthrough brain stack, the neuro breakthrough. Okay, so this is talking about the whole neurogenesis and increasing that. We're really big into that. So you're really going to love this one for increasing your capacity to learn, your capacity to connect the quote axon and dendrites inside your brain, generating those connections. Because when you don't have those connections, that's when you're gapping. That's when you have those things. What's that name? What's that thing I'm thinking? All that sort of stuff. You're going to crush that with this particular stack. Now you're talking about 4 doses of the breakthrough brain stack. The deep work. These are the things that people need if they've got to, get that paper out at a certain time. They want to work on that book that they never seem to get around with. They've got to write that really well thought out letter, to a lawyer or to a business partner or to someone that you really want to communicate something that requires the nuances of deep thinking and deep focus for a period of time. And in today's ADD world, I think a lot of people are really, really going to love this one because it's absolutely delightful. All of this would say that you've got 12 days of super high productivity. You can just try the different stacks. You're going to get these customized when you fill out the form, and it's going to allow you to kind of mix and match which one seems to be the right one for you, and also the right one for the right situation in your life. Matt, we can go to the other one. Yeah, there we go. So the next one we have here is we want to talk about, we got over there. Focus, ferocity. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Focus, ferocity. Now, there's a little backstory to this. one of the things that kind of a thing that we've thrown around in BiOptimizers is a terminology called focus ferocity. And what is focus ferocity? That is when we set up to the computer and it's, you're locked and loaded and nothing is distracting you. You are just pounding out whatever you need to do. You're communicating with people. Even if you're multitasking, you're able to do this with an energy and enthusiasm that literally lasts for hours. So a lot of people can do this for 30 minutes or 20 minutes. What if you could do that for 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10 hours a day? And that sounds like a radical statement, and I never would have believed it. But the good news is you won't have to believe it. You're going to get to experience focus ferocity and all of the benefits that come when you can leverage every aspect of your brain in a way that literally turns on genius. And that's what the Genius Activator does. The level of creativity that is possible when you are leveraging the symphony of neurochemicals. A lot of people think that they may not be a genius. Well, genius is not necessarily something that is reserved for a few groups of highly select people. Genius is a neurochemical state that can be activated by anyone if they have the right neurochemicals in the right environment. And the Genius Activator is going to put you in the optimal neurochemical state in order for you to do that. And what I can share with you is in our internal group, the amount of creativity that has been unlocked since we've been using this is truly phenomenal. And that's one of the reasons why we've been growing 20% month on month in our company. And it's, it continues to blow us away. We do not even know where the level is, and you won't either. You're going to love the Genius Activator. Of course, we've got Social Command, 6 doses of that as well. We talked about that before. That's easily to connect with the groups of people, the situations that you want to do. Plus 5 doses of Breakthrough Brain Stack. This is the neuro breakthrough we talked about, and accessing a new level of neural connectivity and what that will do for you from, whether it's verbal fluency, whether it's to be able to think up new thoughts or work in what I call parallel processing. So one of the things that I've noticed as I've used this product for an extensive period of time now is that I'm able to be simultaneously processing several different items at a given time. So I'm having a conversation, I'm working on, a small task that I'm working on. Plus I got a big idea maybe going in the background that's been running maybe for a week or two. Very, very interesting. Kind of like what Tesla described when he was running his experiments in his brain. 5 doses of the Breakthrough Brain Stack, the deep work support. Again, once people, who have struggled with focus, and a lot of people are out there in this kind of ADD world, this is the product that you're going to absolutely love for those moments where you've got to dive deep, get it done. This is where it is. And here's the best part. You don't wake up the next day burned out or drained like so many people do when they use the, prescription chemicals and things like that, where you do the deep work and then you're fried for 2 days. Unlike that, you wake up fresh and refreshed, because there's another beautiful component. We have the 5 doses of mental reboot. The reality is this, anytime that you are really going for gold in the neurochemical world, there are a way to reset your brain. This is how you don't get acclimatization to any particular prug or nutrient or supplement. And fortunately, Mr. Noots has actually figured out exactly how to do the mental reboot. It's like literally going through your brain, sweeping out all of the metabolites and resetting it. So when you take that next dose of your favorite breakthrough stack, you are going to get the full power of that. And there is a positive benefit that all this good stuff will build up over time. So unlike taking drugs where there's a down regulation, in this case, you're going to feel an up regulation of total amazingness. And I don't know where the end is, because we keep going in this, but it just continues to grow. And then my favorite, this is one of my personal favorites, bottle of Zamner juice. Matt and I, we used to have a lot of fun and do some crazy things back in the day when we were on kind of the unhealthy neurological stacks. And we used to call it the Zamner zone. And it was a zone where we felt a deep level of connectivity, a level of open-hearted communication that was certainly hard for us to access early in our days, that now is easier than ever, that we've been able to optimize our brain chemistry. Because you have to realize that all of these are designed to optimize and leverage your internal pharmacy and your internal neurochemical connectivity by optimizing the neurochemicals that you will be able to deliver all of these different things at the level that you desire. Of course,
And
with this one, you get 23 days of legendary productivity and epic move. Isn't that great? Matt, you wanted to jump in there?
yeah, just on the Xamarin Juice. So the way you use Xamarin Juice, and I just sprayed a few shots seconds ago, is kind of one of these things you just have at your desk, and you can use anytime you want. So there's quite a few doses in there, and you can play around with, again, using it with different stacks. It's awesome. We are absolutely huge fans of Xamarin Juice, and we want to take you to the Xamarin Zone with us.
Yeah, Xamarin I find also really enhances the appreciation of music, the depth and field of it, and I like to do it as we hang out here at the Bio Home and have friends over, and we all do a little bit of Xamarin Juice while we're listening to our favorite music. It's really, you can really feel the enhancement. Now, for those who are the most committed biological optimizers, neurohackers, the people that demand the most out of their life, that are, they want to, take life by the proverbial gonads and kick ass. This is the product for you. World domination. As you can imagine, this is the stack that Matt uses. This is the stack that I use. This is the stack that our team member. Not that we want to dominate the world in a controlling world. We want to be able to transform the neurochemical deficiency that is proliferating our society. And this will allow you to do this. Not only will allow you to do this, but allow you to take your brain to that level that you only could dream of. The kind of one when we saw the movie Limitless, we're not exaggerating on this. But unlike the negative side effects that he had on Limitless, this doesn't have the negative side effects, because Mr. Noots has accounted for all of it. 7 doses of the breakthrough brain stack, the genius activator, 7 doses of the brain stack, the social command, 6 doses of the breakthrough brain stack, the neuro breakthrough, 6 doses of the breakthrough brain stack for the deep work support, 10 doses of mental reboot, 2 bottles of Xamarin Juice, enough for 26 days of superhuman performance. You'll probably want to take the other 4 days off of the month just to feel what it's like to be a regular human, because the bottom line is it is truly amazing. And we just lost the webinar there, so I don't know my page. So can you pop that back up?
I think we're still sharing. Silvio, can you see my screen?
I can't see it. I can't see the screen at all, so I don't know what happened.
Okay, well, I'll keep flowing here. So yeah, we got 3 different levels, and there's another thing too that we're offering as far as customization, which we've actually never done before, and you'll see it on the order form, which is frequency. So we got 2 ways you can experience these. Ones are one-time purchases. So again, if you want to try it out before committing, we understand. That's option 1. And for an example, the world domination is $3.99. You do save 43%. And there's some other perks we're going to get into in a moment that you get with world domination that are absolutely epic. Wade's going to cover these in a second.
Yeah.
Second level. Okay, awesome. Second level is focus ferocity at $2.99 for a one-time. And then brilliance on demand is $129. Now, if you want to subscribe, you can subscribe and save big. And we're going to give you a deeply discounted one-time price today, and then a discounted price after. So for an example, world domination would be $297 today and $349 a month after. Focus ferocity, $225 today and $249 a month. The brilliance on demand, $77 today and then $97 a month. And again, every time that you will get your products, you can optimize, give us feedback, and we will tweak every single order that you get. I mean, there's no one else doing this. So let's cover some of the other packages and other benefits. So Wade, go ahead and walk us through it.
Yeah. So brilliance on demand. Again, 4 doses of the social command, 4 doses of the neural breakthrough, 4 doses of the deep work support. You are going to get enough for 12 days of super high productivity, so you can mix and match those days that you really need it. One-time purchase of $129, but if you subscribe and save, you pay $77 today and $97 a month after. Just to give you an idea, if you were to go to a neurological chemist, Number one, they couldn't offer you this, and it would literally cost you thousands of dollars just to go through the testing and the formulation. But we've customized it because we've always want to bring the price down as low as we possibly can to deliver you the best result. And by the way, that feedback that you're going to be sending back is also super valuable as you tweak and share with us the benefits. Let's go to the next one.
Yes. So let's jump to focus ferocity. And I'm going to we'll cover a couple of awesome perks that come with that on top of the products.
Yes. Focus ferocity, the genius activator, 6 of those, 6 social commands, 5 neuro breakthroughs. I feel like I'm doing the 12 days of Christmas because it's like that. 5 doses of the deep work support, 5 doses of mental reboot, 1 bottle of Xamaner juice, all for only $2.99. But you can pay $225 today on the subscription and get $249 a month. Listen, folks, don't even kid yourself. Just lock in the subscription that's comfortable for you today, because I suspect in the next 30, 60, 90 days, your increased capacity will leverage more dollars that'll more than put more money into your pocket than is going out. I think you're worth it. I think it's really important to recognize. So here's some of the bonuses that you're going to get when you get Focus Ferocity. First off, you're going to get an extra $50 of BiOptimizers store credit. You're going to get access to the BioTribe. BioTribe is a new membership that we're launching. It's the insider group where we're going to share with you the latest, the greatest, the inside track of everything that we're doing at BiOptimizers. And believe me, it's a lot more than you will see anywhere else in the world. So what does that include? 12% off all BiOptimizer purchases, free shipping on all shipments worldwide. BiOptimizers Tribe, you're going to find out more about what that is. We kind of give you some clues. You're going to get some free BiOptimizers merchandise, which is my favorite. I wear the clothes all the time. 2 Q&A webinars. And this is some of our who's who health and fitness legends that most people can't get access. We've lined up a host of people that people just really can't get the time to access that you'd see on the stages, you see at the events and stuff. You'd love to ask those questions. Those webinars are going to be available to you. You're going to be able to ask those people questions that you would never get answered before. Plus, the BiOptimizers App Insider Access, which is coming very soon. We're just coding it now. And then finally, you're going to get all 4 of our best-selling formulas: Masszymes, P through M, HCl Breakthrough, Magnesium. You're getting that plus a $50 coupon annually. I mean, just right there, there's so much value here. We're making it so easy for you to take advantage. I doubt we'll ever offer this offer again. This is an initial first time ever to get involved with this. Get on it, sign up, pick the prices for you. Let's move on into the next one, because here it is. For those of you world dominators, I know the secret thing that's knocking around your brain. Here's what you're going to get. All of this: 7 doses of the Genius Activator, 7 doses of Social Command, 6 doses of Neural Breakthrough, 6 doses of the Deep Work Support, 10 doses of Mental Reboot, 2 bottles of Xamaner Juice, 26 full days of superhuman performance. Let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. What would your life be like if you had superhuman days, 26 of them every single month? Stack that up. Month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, month 6. Most people get 1 or 2 days, maybe a month if they're lucky. You're going to get 26 times that with this offer. And normally it's $3.99. That's what it's going to be. And it'll probably scale up from there, just to be clear. But we want to get the feedback. We want you part of the tribe. The bottom line is you pay $297 today and $349 on the subscribe. Of course, everything that we do has a money back guarantee on your first order. If you don't love it, if it doesn't over deliver from what we're sharing with you, then we're going to demand that you give our money back. We're pretty clear that's not going to happen. But the bottom line is we want to de-risk it for you. Plus, here's some of the bonuses you're going to get. $100 store credit at BiOptimizers, a BioTribe membership, which you talked about, plus the BioLab Rat Crew invitation. Yes, you can get inside behind the walls into the labs with Matt, myself, and the BioTribe team, and you're going to get the latest, the cutting edge of what we are cooking up next. And let me tell you, we've got a lot of things cooking up. So yes, you can get all of this at the bioptimizebrain.com/go. Click on it and away you go. Matt, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, just talk about the BioLab Rat Crew. What is that? So we're building a group. It's going to be invitation only, and we're only looking for hyper committed biohackers that want to try prototypes, want to do biohacking experiments. They'll get prototype products and give us feedback. One of the things that we're huge on at BiOptimizers is data, real world feedback. And to give you an example, we recently have been doing a lot of experimentations with blood sugar formulas, and we had a lot of people giving us data. So it's a really cool thing if you're into trying things and love experiments like me. So anyways, you will be getting an invitation if you join World Domination.
Sweet.
I just want to talk about, again, the way to look at this is very different than most supplements. I've spent 6 figures, it's not an exaggeration, it's about 150,000 on my brain over the last 4+ years. And it's been the highest ROI I've spent. You know, I've been able to build multiple multi-million-dollar companies. BiOptimizers, as Wade said, I mean, we've doubled in the last 4 months, and we're just getting started. Wait till you see the output that's coming. And I have to give credit where credit's due. And this is it. And of course, I've spent a fortune on nootropics as well as hardware. And, you know, we're just passionate about bringing the best of the best. And that's why we are partners with Mr. Noots and bring you the absolute cutting edge. So just to give you some concrete examples, again, we've written a book. We're a third way through our second book. We haven't even released the first one. It's coming out, by the way, about 3 weeks. So really excited about that. BiOptimizers grew 20% month on month for the last 4 months in a row. And we're so pumped about this that we are putting our entire company on these products. So, you know, whoever wants to take them, of course, we're not going to force people to take these stacks, but everybody's super excited. And we are even more excited because we know the effects. So we're willing to put our money where our mouth is and essentially invest in giving our entire team customized stacks because it's going to pay for itself multiple times over. So Wade, walk us through all these other cool bonuses that people will get by getting this.
Of course, with everyone, we always believe that you can never supplement yourself out of a bad diet or lifestyle. And that's why we give away the Awesome Health course. Basically, it's the 7 pillars, lifestyle philosophy, air, water, exercise, sunlight, optimizers, mental beliefs, education, testing. We don't even get to supplements until the 6th pillar, as we share with you all of the components that will allow you to go through the stages of biological optimization, a 15-minute morning ritual that will have you supercharge your health that I think anybody can do at any age, where you actually leverage these 7 pillars in 15 minutes, plus the 12 healthy habits of highly healthy people. We've been studying health. I've done hundreds and hundreds of interviews with some of the latest and greatest and smartest people on the planet. And there's 12 habits that virtually every healthy person has. Incorporate them in their life and you'll get to experience the benefits of that. Plus, what are the obstacles? How to knock them out of your life? What are the things that hold you back from being truly healthy? And believe me, these psychological demons need to be put down. Identify them and put them down will help you do that. Basically, it's over $6,000 worth of coaching. It all comes in really easy 5 to 15-minute videos that you can watch on your phone while you're taking the kids to, you know, where you're waiting at soccer practice or at ballet. The bottom line is you're going to get 10 times the value, comfort of your home, on your phone, delivered there, plus all the connections of where we got the research. If you want to dive deep on it, you'll be able to get all of that, the Awesome Health course. It is our most popular course. Plus, you are going to get...
I'll hop in on this one, Wade,
yes,
because we just literally finished it today, which is the Brilliant Mind Blueprint. These are... First of all, there's a lot of practical tips to get more out of nootropics. There's my Xamarin Zone, my personal Xamarin Zone coffee recipe. It's my take on the bulletproof coffee. But there's a key secret here, which is you stack that with the other stacks. And it's, again, remember I talked about the fats as a delivery system. When you take the Xamarin Zone coffee with the stacks, and there's a huge secret that I reveal in the document, and we've just shared the link. The big secret, you'll see it in there, because there's something you can add that we're not selling yet because it's not federally legal yet, but you'll understand once you see it, that if you take it with the stacks, it works as a gateway for a lot of the nutrients. And it's a lot of practical stuff. Plus, we cover multiple ways for you to play around with these stacks, because again, the timing, the dosages, all of these things will affect your results. And all of that's covered in this blueprint. And you can download it right now. The link is in the chat. And feel free to read it and give us some feedback. And of course, it's included here. All right, go ahead, Wade.
Okay, so plus you're going to get the digestive health video vault. Okay, this is where we did with Katrine Valinsky, we did all the digestion, heartburn, gas, bloating, indigestion, constipation, probiotics and weight loss, enzymes, everything, even fart science. We cover why this happens and why right now 12% of the emergency hospital visits in the world are dealing with gastrointestinal issues. Everything from Alzheimer's to heart disease to diabetes all starts with their digestion. In fact, I just interviewed Dr. Tom O'Brien an hour ago, and there's a Harvard researcher that has absolutely proved the importance of why you need to repair your digestion. Matt and I have known this for years. We founded our company in that foundational point. You'll understand and be able to address all of those things. So that's very, very exciting. Plus, as they say, that's not all. You are going to get Matt's Keto Diet Mastery. In fact, Matt has been doing keto longer than anybody I know. I think maybe one of the top keto guys in the world. He's going to share with you his 8 key tools to optimize your ketogenesis to the next level. Plus, he gave this talk at the acclaimed talk, and it's upgraded at the upgraded conference and Bulletproof, of course. One of the best conferences in the world. You're going to get the presentation. You're going to learn the biggest lessons that Matt's had in 26 years of keto dieting that will maximize your muscle gains and boost your energy. Plus, he's going to share some secrets that a lot of people don't know about how to upgrade your carb timing, things like that, that a lot of keto people don't talk about, at least in public. So here's what you're going to get. You're going to get the Awesome Health course, the Digestive Health Video Vault, the upgraded genetics presentation that Matt gave at Bulletproof, the BioTribe yearly membership. You're going to get the Brain Stacks launch, plus a free copy of the new Biological Optimization Blueprint. You are not going to want to miss this. It's basically our Bible to start you on biological optimization. Anyone that subscribes, that's over $1,000 of total value, bioptimizebrain.com/go. Don't waste time. You know, you can always get our products, but you can't always get them at this price. This is an initial offering on this. We expect we will sell out because the customization adds a level of nuance. Imagine, think about this. You are getting your very own customized, neurologically developed chemical extract that's going to help you optimize your brain, plus all these bonuses. The incredible value, you really can't get this anywhere else. This is like having your own lab team working directly for you to make your brain work better. So just go to bioptimizebrain.com/go. You know what, folks? Go all in. You deserve it. You deserve to have a great brain. You deserve to be at your peak. You deserve to be biologically optimized. And we've de-risked it. For any reason that you don't like that first order, there's something that doesn't work for you, no problem. We can refund your money. But guess what? We know that that's not going to be the case, because this stuff is truly magic. It's changed my life. It's changed everybody's life that we've dealt with. Because here's something that's really important to understand. The decisions we make at key points in our life will determine our future. It's easy to check out of this, go somewhere else, say, hey, I'll get back to that or whatever. But guess what? We have this concept called the biospan. And that is the quality of life over the length of life. And we know for a fact that we can optimize the quality of your life and perhaps even the health span. We all know the degenerative cases of normal aging. What if we could reverse that trend? What if we could reverse the trend inside your brain right now to turn back the clock and maybe take you to a level that you've never experienced? It's not just about aging normally. It's about hitting another altitude in the possibilities of what it's like to be biologically optimized. Matt and I have been committed to this our whole life. We've failed in a lot of experience, but we've got a few things that work, and that's why we're so happy to share them with you. The bottom line is it's time for you to become a superhuman version of yourself. This is your chance to become BiOptimized. Aesthetics, performance, health. We've been doing this from 2004, and we're going to be doing this probably in 2104. The bottom line is we want you to join in this team and experience this, because there's nothing better than helping other people be able to experience the true power of what's possible inside your own brain and your own body.
So now we're going to do FAQs, and I'm not kidding. We're ready to go all night long.
So let's talk about this. Maybe Mr. Noots, you'd like to come in here. One of the questions that people ask, especially if they've been using, some of the things like modafinil and Lateral, where they've experienced or high levels of caffeine or stimulants and all the things that are kind of on vogue. Are there side effects to these products?
So, thank you. By the way, I just got an incredible drink delivered to me by a beautiful woman. I think that is testimony to what fantastic Noots will do for you. She's also wearing a very short skirt. Okay, so sorry. Yeah, side effects. So one of the things that we found in the process of these thousands of prototypes was that what we needed to do was get to an optimum tolerance level where your body is naturally processing the stuff you're taking and not building up any kind of toxicity that might cause a problem. And the other was that your lifestyle might have toxic side effects anyhow. How do we get rid of that? So what you've done in the stack development with BiOptimizers is we've eliminated any kind of side effects or anything else by basically clearing out the neurons on a nightly basis. So we don't have toxicity anyhow, because everything we do is pretty natural, organic, and our extracts don't have any secondary or tertiary chemicals that are residuals in there. So you're not going to have side effects. The cool thing is you can, if you have an experience with a product that you're going, it's not exactly what I wanted, or it's not quite, or it was too much of what I wanted, the next day it's cool because you've already been reset.
Beautiful. So this is a question I think maybe we can go around the horn on this. What do I feel? And I know for my own self, anytime that I had taken a variety of different neurochemical concoctions, and I've done a vast array of them, one of the things that I felt is I didn't necessarily feel. I could get focused, I could get driven, I could stay thing, but the feeling kind of dropped away. So it almost was dehumanizing. And what's one of the beauties of this particular formulations that you put together is I don't lose any of what I call the heart-centered feel while I'm improving my brain stack. In fact, most of the stacks, it's actually enhanced. And that's what kind of makes it unique. And also, again, when I wake up in the morning the next day, I don't have any residual feeling. That's part of the extraction process and part of the deep level of the chemistry that's involved here. Maybe Matt, you'd like to share, and then we'll follow up with Mr. Noots.
Yeah, no, this is the first question I'd say I get 90% of the time, including my wife. I love giving my wife these stacks. It's been very profound for her. And she'll always ask, what am I going to feel? And it's a little bit difficult to answer because there's so many ways you can feel. Going back to the orchestra analogy, depending how I want to feel, and that's the power of what we've done here. It's like we've essentially pre-designed these soundtracks that we can tweak the mix on for you. And again, if you don't understand music, then maybe that's confusing, but whether you want to feel really intense and hyper focus, which you can, or whether you want to feel happy, joyous, and really social, we can shift you any which way you want. And these stacks are going to do that. And then with the customization, we'll be able to, again, really dial it in based on what you want to feel. And I love what you said, Wade, because I think it's such a big deal. And I've taken stuff where I got hyper focused, but became a bit of an arsehole, right? Because it was just pure adrenaline or cortisol, and there was none of these other notes like serotonin and GABA that made me feel good and made me be able to relate with people and connect with people, which is very important to me. So that's all I've got, Mr. Noots. What will
Yeah,
people
yeah.
feel?
So my employees, when I was running a software company, my employees knew when I was doing Adderall because they said, "Oh, you're such an asshole today."
Yeah, I always
So
thought they should call that Acerol.
I think isn't that what rose hips have? Acerola.
Yeah.
Boom. So here's the cool thing. Here's a really cool thing on this. So when you take a really well-designed nootropic stack, is you don't feel a hammer hitting you, driving you to the next level. You are encouraged, coached, and guided into the thing that you want to be, or the person you want to be, or the feeling you want to have. So what you'll notice with the neurotropic stacks that we create for you is that one is because it's customized for you, is you're going to have something that's much more in alignment with your physiology, neurology, health conditions, goals, and everything else. Because we ask you all those questions. But the other is that you're gonna have this experience of going, holy crap, I actually feel, or I actually spent the day performing like a rock star instead of waiting for things to kick in. Because it's not a slap in the face. It's not a hammer to the head. It's not a thing that you're going to regret 2 or 3 days later. If you saw Limitless, if you saw any of the kind of like meds, drug-based sci-fi futuristic movies, you saw these guys go through this like experience that was almost too intense, and then when they got off that experience, they wanted to put a gun to their head if they didn't already have it there. What we wanted to do was make stacks that sneak up on you, allow you to perform like a rock star, and encourage you to perform like a rock star, and give you that little tiny boost without shoving you through the gates and you're holding on for dear life. So you're definitely going to feel more awareness, more your ability to articulate things that are happening in the left and right side of the brain together. It definitely increases. And then the ability to execute. One of the things that I loved about my experience as we finally refine these things, which happened to happen in a recording studio, but was the fact that you're going, oh my God, my productivity is so much higher than it was before, but I don't feel like I'm working at it. I don't feel like I'm applying a systematic, set process of an outline of do this, then do this, then do this. They just kind of
I got to jump in on that because that's so huge. I don't feel I have to tap into my willpower.
Right. I mean, if you've read the books on how do you get productive, they all say, especially any of the modern ones, they all say, if you're relying on willpower, good luck, buddy.
Yeah, that's rude. No,
it's a
finite resource, right? And
right, exactly. Oh yeah, hell yes. And it's also dependent. Like I have plenty of friends, especially friends in the executive coaching, life coaching, and kind of those communities who are waiting for the muse to show up. This is more like Stephen Pressfield sitting on your shoulder going, look, you already have the answer. Just go write the goddamn thing. Excuse my language. But you get the idea. It's you're already there. All you got to do is execute. And this gives you the tools to execute because you're no longer guessing, is that the right move or the wrong move? You're not stuck in the analysis of paralysis. You're moving forward at an accelerated rate, knowing that the decisions you're making are good decisions. The way that we characterized it when we were developing these was, if you can think clearly you're halfway there. If you have the energy to execute, then you can actually make your good decisions go somewhere. And that's the kind of upward spiral of success, right? Clear thinking combined with the ability and energy and desire to execute is what success kind of looks like in a bubble. And so we make that, we don't make that. We give you the tool to allow you to do that at the rate that is effective for you. And what we've actually heard from some of our clients is that they were so afraid to make the moves that they needed to move because they didn't have the self-confidence or self-esteem or the whatever the neurochemical was that made them feel like they could do it, right? Dopamine 101. And we helped push them over the edge so that they weren't second guessing their approach. And as a result of that, they were doing stuff, and their reflective iteration in that, their feedback loop was really short. So they were executing, getting the feedback, looking at whether it was the right execution or less than optimal. Then they were getting another feedback loop saying, yes, let's go this way. And you're kind of like fine tuning it at 1,000 times per second, just like a microprocessor would do. So we're overclocking your microprocessor, but we're giving you the neurochemicals to keep that overclocking happening indefinitely without burning your brain out.
Yeah, I call it friction-free, focused, and fun. That would how I would describe it. So I guess the next thing we'd like to kind of dive in, and of course, everybody, and this is something that's very important for us at BiOptimizers, and is this safe?
Yes. I mean, here's the deal. When we started this process, we started with an amino acid, pyroglutamic acid. You can go look up pyroglutamic acid. It's one of the oldest amino acids in existence. And we started from there. We started working forward. As we got more and more and more closer to chemically derived or lab derived chemicals, we found that they acted more like Adderall or Vinase or any of the typical, performance enhancing drugs that people do to try to just like make it through high school. And we found that was really negative because the moment they went off of them, very much like in the Limitless movie, is the minute he quit taking NZT, he failed. Like, his physiology started fading. And his trick, the thing that kept him alive, the thing that made it to the end of the movie, was he figured out how to reverse engineer using NZT. He figured out how to reverse engineer NZT to make it not dangerous and not, chemically caustic to the system. We kind of worked from the same way, but what we did is, as we started doing extractions, we figured out that you could do much better with organic, natural extracts than you could with pure chemical stuff. And that the result was your body, your physiology, your brain, and the rest. And we're doing blood, saliva, urine, and protein hair tests like weekly. And what we're finding was that as we got more and more closer to pure, natural, organically grown, naturally extracted compounds, that we didn't have any of this chemical buildup that caused people to build a tolerance or underperform or create this kind of saturation, this chemical saturation that would cause really, really serious side effects. So yeah, it's very safe. And in fact, I know, Matt, you and Wade are also regular users, but I've now been using these compounds for well over a decade and going all the way from the beginning. And my physiology, I'm 59 years old. My physiology is that of a 27-year-old, and I've been parked there since 2008. So
yeah, and I would just to add to that, when we first met, I was truly impressed with kind of that, what I would say, youthful thinking combined with and really an incredible brain that struck me when we first met. And it
that's
was
just because
really,
you drove. That's just because you drove 3 hours, Matt.
Well, and I'd actually driven from. I actually came down from brain training at 40 years of Zen. As we said, we go deep in this, and I can't wait to leverage these products the next time I go back. I guess the next question I guess we're going to talk about is, of course, everyone is addictive, and I'll share my little component on it first. One of the things that I'm very conscientious of is addictiveness. I've had a lot of people in my life that have suffered from addiction, and it's something that's very mindful. But one of the things I've noticed is I've taken days off just to see what it's like. I don't feel any anxiousness that I need to go. I don't feel that I'm down. I don't feel that I have any negative side effects. I don't feel that I have any issues that would be what I would quote unquote addictive like symptoms. But I'll let you kind of answer this question, Mr. Noots, about the addictive
jump in on
aspect.
this
Yeah,
one?
and Matt's, I think with
I
your
feel
story is really
qualified.
important. Yeah.
I feel qualified to answer this one. Yeah, so of course I've tried, again, been playing with nootropics for a long time. And I'd say in general, I've never really taken any nootropic that I found addictive. I'm of course hypersensitive to addictive things. And it's one of these, what I love about these stacks is like on the weekends, if I'm not working, I don't take them, I just feel myself. I don't feel a lack of, or don't feel weird. I just go back to normal Matt, and it's awesome. So I'm going to be taking a couple weeks off from work for the holidays, and I won't be using it. And I've never had a craving, which is kind of the sign of addiction. But Mr. Noots, what's been your take on that?
I think he's muted, or did we lose him?
Yeah, you're on mute, Mr. Noots. We could build a cool rap song out of "You're on mute, Mr. Noots." There you go.
Oh, there we go. Thanks, brother. So yeah. I when you're on that 2 week, that we've got a recreational solutions as well. So yeah. So one of the big things for me was, since my wife died of a drug overdose from addiction, and it was a silent addiction, it's one you didn't see. It was super important to me. And then of course watching Limitless, which happened about 6 months after the movie came out, is the beta testers that I was sending product to, contacted me and said, "Hey, this is a lot like that thing in that movie." And so one of the significant pieces of the movie was when people quit taking NZT, they would get these horrendous side effects and then eventually die. And so what we wanted to do was make sure that what we were doing, because I was also dealing with a lot of clients that were using Lateral and similar ADHD substances as performance, as well as any of the legal meds that they could get. And so we wanted something that would present a performance increase, and that you would get an incremental performance increase even when you were off of it, because the neurogenesis had helped create some new neural pathways for you that you could tap into. And I have a background in that when I was doing competitive sports, and it's an incredible thing to be able to know, oh, I'm going to take this, I'm going to when I get this effect, or when I get this kind of feedback loop going with, oh my gosh, I'm performing at a better level, and I'm really enjoying this, or I'm really happy about the way I feel doing this performance level. If I don't take this, there's always a fear that you quit taking it and suddenly your performance will fall back to whatever the baseline was before. The thing is, you're raising your baseline. So we're neurochemically and biochemically raising your baseline so that your baseline performance will be higher. Now, you may not notice that at first, because all you're doing is creating better products, better end products, and you're doing it with less work or less effort. But what's happening long term is you're actually changing your brain state and your physiology to operate at a higher level.
Yeah, you're rewiring your brain. This is where neurogenesis comes in.
It is. Yeah, you start doing those neural pathways, you start remapping neural pathways. Well, those neural pathways aren't going to go away. They don't disintegrate because you quit taking the thing that created them. Those are permanent. Those are a part of you now. And the really cool part about that is that you can get to a state, and if you decide that that's the state that you just want to be at, you quit taking them and you're still at that state. You still call that state up. Very much like neurolinguistic programming, you just basically say, oh, I know how to go there, and you just mentally go there. It's instantaneous. You don't worry about it. You don't think about it. You don't work at it. It just goes there. And that to me that's been a life changer for me. I've been the poster child for ADHD for decades. I actually lost a company because an investor of mine said, you're ADHD, and unless you go on these drugs, we can't keep working with you. And I refused after going on it a little bit and having my employees look at me like I was Frankenstein. I decided that probably wasn't a good positive thing for me. And so I went off it, and we lost the company as a result of that. But the end result was it kept me looking for better solutions. And yeah, so here we are.
Another question that I think a lot of people will have is how fast will it begin working?
40 minutes. So yeah. outside of the solution that basically detoxifies the brain overnight, is all of our solutions are made to, as soon as the capsule fully dissolves in the bloodstream and is activated, or the drink, which works quite a bit faster, that's more like 15 to 20 minutes, you'll have that experience. So it's not one where you go like a typical, in the venture capital world that we talk about painkillers versus vitamins. And in the venture capital world, they're looking for painkillers. They want something that really addresses a big problem and does it in a big way. They don't want a vitamin that people take and hope that it's working. In the same way, Neurotropics, the way that we build products is we want them to have a positive, sustainable, long-term solution that you can feel. And that's a long-term thing. And so you should feel it within the first hour or less. Outside of, again, the thing that cleans your brain out at night, that is going to be something that you just, kind of experience overnight. But outside of that, everything you should feel within an hour or less, and it should last for an extended period of time. It's not like it lasts an hour, it has a half-life of 2 hours.
And the drinks like the neocortex nectar and the power solution, you feel that very quickly, and again, depends how much you drink, but these water soluble drinks, usually you'll feel in 10 to 15 minutes, which is awesome.
Another question that people have is, how do you know it will work for me?
So this was a big issue that we needed to address when we first started this, which was a lot of people had taken nutritional supplements hoping that over time they would have some kind of a cumulative effect. So when we started sending out these samples to these over 1,000 beta testers, is we wanted to know, how to increase efficacy, which is the amount of people that are affected by or improved by these solutions. And we found that when we didn't customize, we got anywhere from 30 to 42% of those people had a positive experience. When we did customize, we got 92 to 92.7% of those people were getting a positive effect. So there is a very small slice who will go, I'm either, there's some neurological condition I've got, or the way my brain is made or the way my body's made just doesn't respond well to nootropics. But that's very, very small. And we have a huge number of people who, even if they quit taking it after 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 6 months, they always come back because they realize that the difference between being in a performance environment and being in their average environment is significant enough that the performance improvement is, is verifiable in dollars in their bank account, in relationships with their, with their loved ones, in their happiness overall, and in their health overall.
Yeah, happiness, performance is an inside job, and we've got the tools to customize it exactly for you. And that's why we've done this, because there's literally nobody out there in the world that has gone to that depth to customize these for the variances in different people's brains. And of course, we do have everything has our classic BiOptimizers money back guarantee. If you don't think this is just the most epic thing ever, and it may sound like we're hyping this, and the reality is we're not. That's the funny part about my enthusiasm and our excitement and our joy to share this, because it's literally a dream come true for all of us, and that's why we're so committed to sharing it with people. Next thing, I guess, because I think a lot of people are used to stimulation in the neural. And this is one of my big pet peeves around a lot of quote unquote nootropics, which are really just jacking people up with massive amounts of caffeine. So is there caffeine in it? Is there people going to get the jitters? Will they feel jacked? What's the story? What's the lowdown?
Oh, that's a great one, because most quote unquote neurotropics or performance products, including Adderall, are reliant upon stimulants for their success. And so we also recognize that stimulants are necessary in order to overcome the drag that neurotropics initially present to your physiology. Is we went from a position of going anhydrous caffeine is fine, but it's a little bit too brutal on the system. So we continued to go upstream, and we started looking at herbal and like guarana and other extracts, and then we muted those. So there's a thing called the adenosine receptor in the brain. The adenosine receptor is muted when you take caffeine, and that allows the caffeine to kind of flow into the brain and create all this activity, and the adrenals are pinged as well, and there's some other activities that go on, very much hormonal based activities. And the problem with that is that you build tolerance fairly quickly, as any coffee drinker knows. And the other side of it is that you also suffer from these kind of peaks and valleys throughout the day as you're doing that thing. So we found that what we needed was just enough of a stimulant layer, using a very low impact stimulant that has a very decent half-life, that doesn't have a crash effect, doesn't affect blood sugar, doesn't affect adenosine receptor activity very hard, all those kinds of things, so that you don't get that buzz or that brittleness, is what we called it back in the early days of making these. Is when we got to brittleness, meaning that you kind of felt that edgy, icky,
frazzled, what I like to call
it. Yeah, exactly. We wanted to eliminate that. So none of our products have any, they're at a minimum of stimulation. The only reason you'll feel the stimulation is that the neurotropics are coming on, and they're allowing you to experience this effect without feeling the lag that normally would happen if you had a poorly designed stack, or if you were doing a single neurotropic and you were trying to get the results of a nice compound or a stack.
A couple of things I want to highlight off of this, which is, and this is an example of the customization. If you've ever looked at your genes, again, and you're probably aware of it already, some people are slow caffeine metabolizers. I'm one of them. I think Wade's one of them. Some people are fast caffeine metabolizers. They can handle 3 cups of coffee, take a cup of coffee, go to bed, pass out. And this is just one example of one of the things we're going to optimize based on what you like. If you're like my friend Eyal, he drinks a quarter cup of coffee and he's screwed. He can't sleep, 18 hours later. So there's a huge variance in how much caffeine people can tolerate and enjoy. And that's just one of the many things we can tweak.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we've got a few more questions. I know we've been going hard and deep, as we like to say. So we're going to kind of burn through these as quickly as possible to get you guys on this. Will it affect my sleep?
Well, I think I covered this one earlier. I wanted to hear from Mr. Noots, but again, I'm pretty sensitive to stimulants, and what I love is, again, if I take my stack at, let's say, 9 a.m. by 7, 8 p.m., I'm in a great state. Now and I cover this in the blueprint, Brilliant Mind Blueprint, that, magnesium breakthrough, for example, is a great solution to start shifting your nervous system over. If you do find yourself overstim, L-theanine is another one of my favorites. So it's rarely the case, but sometimes I just get overstimmed by work or whatever. So you can shift, but I've never experienced a sleep issue with any of the stacks. Mr. Noots, is that a problem?
Yeah, no, same thing. I'm super sensitive to those things, and because I consider sleep one of the key components of life,
Amen.
yeah, is that unless you get good sleep, you're not going to, especially delta sleep, and REM and delta sleep are like killer, and theta, being able to get into theta state, all of those factors are super important. So we work really hard to eliminate those effects, as well as and I'm sure Matt and Wade will have available. They've got some sleep solutions coming up as well, but they're not going to be something that's going to jack you up like drinking coffee midday and suddenly realizing that you're going to have a crappy night. So yeah.
Another one you kind of touched on here was depression, and some people have it and they're like, well, will this help them? Is it something that they can use? Can you kind of maybe expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, man. So so again, depression is based in neurotransmitter activity, and I'm an inherently, even though I'm an optimist, I'm an inherently, I have a level of depression that wants to haunt me. Thankfully, I haven't had that affect me in a negative way for many years now. But every once in a while, when I get when I are working too hard, not sleeping enough, and most importantly, not exercising, if I run into that, then I will tend towards a depressive matrix, or if I lose focus on what's important, right? So one of the side effects of the stacks that we make is they're antidepressive by nature. So they're not just serotonergic, which they are, and dopaminergic, but they also help because they cross the blood-brain barrier and work extensively within the neurology. Is they're inherently antidepressant in effect, and when we started working on, like, there's a capsule that you folks are promoting, that when you take it, you'll notice that about 40 to 45 minutes after you take it, you'll get a stupid smile on your face, and it's because of its lean towards the serotonergic system and its ability to counteract depression. So yeah, so it's fantastic. And for a guy like me, the combination of the drink and the capsules is a cure-all for my inherent lack, my inherent depression, which is, again, it's biochemical, not situational.
Right on. Of course, a lot of people are going to ask us, do I have to take this forever? And are there any contraindications or risks?
We recommend you take it forever. Sorry, just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, here's I it's funny I asked that question. I can't imagine not taking this. As long as I'm in 3-dimensional reality on planet Earth, I'm in. When I leave, I guess I won't. So it depends what you call forever.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I'm sure Joe Rogan would run with this on yeah. But so No, you don't. Here's the cool thing is you can take this for a 30, 60, 90, 120, 180 degree, time period. You'll get cumulative stacked collective results. But you'll also notice, and we've seen this because we have intensive client analysis for customization and the rest, is that those people that have quit for a time period, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 months, is they typically return not because they need it, but because they recognize the difference in performance that they achieve with it is greater than they achieve without it, and that it's more fun. We have this thing called fun, fame, and fortune. So we believe that work should be fun and that you should be doing the things that you're great at. Fame should be recognizing the people in your life that are contributors to your success in your life and your happiness and your joy. And then fortune should be serving people within your world and realizing that the abundance that you achieve by being high performers is something to be shared, not huddled. And so this fun, fame, and fortune kind of permeates all of our products because we do extensive testing. We have well over 1,000 beta testers that receive samples of products that tell us how we're doing or where we're screwing up, what we're doing wrong, everything from packaging and labeling to the actual product performance. And so we don't sit still and go, we made it. We have 100-year horizon on this that gets refreshed every year. And it is to make a monumental contribution to every life we touch. So no, you don't have to take this forever, but I guarantee when you reach the level of performance that you want to achieve and you're getting the results you want to achieve, and you say, you know what, I'm not going to renew the subscription, or I'm not going to take another hit or whatever, that over time, you'll notice that you're not having as much fun. You're not necessarily being as effective, but it's not coming down to the level you were before you started taking this. It's coming down to a level far after that that's much higher than you were ever at. But because you've seen, you can't unsee excellence. You can't unsee your ideal scene. You can't unsee your perfection. You can't unsee the greatness that you're capable of. And so that's kind of the thing that might bring you back to the fold of taking them again, is going, wow, with them, without them, I'm still at a level far above where I was before. With them, I don't have a horizon end on what I can achieve, where I can be physically, sexually, physiologically, neurologically. There's like, you don't see that there is an end that you're going to get to. You kind of like keep moving the goalpost beyond you because it's fun, because it's not work anymore. So anyhow, I was a little verbose on that, but yeah.
Awesome.
And then as far as risk and contradictions, anybody should be aware of?
No, if you're doing, again, one of the parts of the customization form is to vet out meds you happen to be on, any physiological issues you happen to have, there's plenty of areas for you to contribute and share your views on life and where you're at and what's happening and how you react to certain things. So we take all of that into consideration to try to, to make sure. And in the last decade of hundreds of thousands of these products going out, we have had only 2 instances of individuals that had a challenge. Both those individuals decided to not follow any kind of directions and go open, they basically were in serious conditions that they did not disclose on their intake form. One had a major neurological condition, and one had a major physiological condition. They didn't disclose those. They had an issue. We corrected the issue for them, and that was it. So 2 out of hundreds of thousands is, I think, a pretty good deal. And those people are fine today. And one of those 2 are still customers. The other one tried to be a customer, and we cut them off because they were problematic from, they were buying as much product as they could and then getting a refund, and then buying as much product as they could and getting a refund, that kind of stuff. So.
Great. A couple more questions. And that is, can I still drink coffee and tea or anything that I combine it with? Of course, we do have the PDF, the bioptimize.com/go brilliant mind blueprint, which we'll talk about some of that, but you want to answer that question, Mr. Noots?
You bet, man. Yes. In fact, it works great. Who is this? Hold on a second. Hold on just a second.
I'll jump in here, and yeah, I do share, like I said, my version of a bulletproof coffee in the document. And some days I just have teas, but yeah, you just have to, again, figure out how much caffeine you like, and if you like coffee and you don't like to get too stemmed, sometimes I'll do half caffeine, half decaf.
I have no earphones. I have no idea what I'm saying.
No worries. As far as how to take it, we cover that in the document that we've shared with everyone. So a lot of ways you can take it, but go ahead, Mr. Noots.
Yeah, and there's hey. Sorry about my dog, guys.
He's excited.
So yes, you can still drink coffee and tea and kombucha and everything else with it. It's actually really effective. So we built it so that if you are a coffee, tea, drinker, it'll only improve the benefits of it. So it's not going to be a negative. And then the other side is one of the fun things that we get as feedback. Again, that's the other half, right? First half is intake. How do we customize it for you? The second half is feedback. How do we modify the formula? After you've taken the formula that we co-created with you, how do we modify it to make it better next time? And so I do Life Boost espresso organic coffee, and I do a cold press with this because that's what the founder of the company recommends. Great guy. And so I do this on a fairly regular basis, not every day, but every other day regularly. And it's fantastic. It just improves the results. So yeah, any of those things are really great. And then how do you take it? That depends on what you're getting it for, when you're taking it. And again, the brilliant guys at BiOptimizers have both figured that out for themselves and work with the data that we've collected and have put together a guide for that.
So here you go, guys. Thanks for staying with us. Of course, we're all enhanced, so it makes it a lot easier for us, and you'll know exactly what we're talking about. For all the people that have stuck around for so long, I love you and appreciate, and I love you gutting it out. And it's going to get easier on our next webinar. You're going to probably want to go through this again.
Right.
This is officially the longest webinar in BiOptimizer history. But you guys are part of something that you're going to look back on as truly a game changer in your life, in your relationships, and how you literally see the world. Of course, all of our products have a full 365-day money-back guarantee. Pick your formula, use it for 60 days. In the unlikely event that you're not totally blown away, we'll reformulate one for you. No problem. That's what we do, the customization. You're going to get to tweak. You are going to be able to play biochemistry with your own brain with some of the greatest chemists that we've ever met in our life. Plus, if you'd rather have a refund, no problem. We'll eat the cost, return your money. We believe that the gratitude that you're going to feel, you would never even consider that because it's just so darn good. But again, we want to de-risk it for you. These formulas are custom. Remember, you could never do this on your own. If you went to your own very own neurochemist, it would cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. They're not cheap to produce, but we're super confident that it'll work. Matt and I, dreamed of building a company that would, change the world and help people become biologically optimized. We've got deep personal stories. We slugged through this for years. We paid ourselves in supplements for 10 years. We do this because we love it. We don't do this. We don't have to do this. We don't have to work. But the bottom line is we never felt better helping people. And I know in my heart and in my soul that this is going to help you. It's going to help you have a better life. It's going to have a better connection. And who knows what greatness that will be activated, the potential that lies in with you, you're going to be able to access just a little bit easier and just a little bit more consistency with this. Get your VIP brain stack. This super incredible launch rate, you're getting up to 50% savings. I can tell you one thing, the likelihood of us keeping these prices over the long term are very unlikely. Demand, we do have a production limitation. So the first 100 customers can lock this in. You can be part of the feedback group, get onto that sort of stuff. Go to bioptimizebrain.com/go. Do that now. I don't want you to miss out. This webinar is going to be pumped out to literally tens of thousands of people, the recording. So dig in and just go a little bit further, go to the form, sign in, and you fill out the application that will give the customization. So I guess if we have any other questions, we want to do that, or we want to just wrap it up and give the support at BiOptimizers, and we can answer those questions in email. I think we've handled most of them.
Yeah, let's just make sure. I'm just going through the chat here. I'll pull up any questions we haven't answered. And by the way, we love the engagement. Thank you for everyone for sticking around. It's amazing. So I'm just going through the comments here.
I think I was handling that in real time, Matt. So
yeah, you were doing a great job. I guess if anyone has questions, you can type it in. I know there's some questions around countries. We are looking at that, and we will get back to you tomorrow.
Yeah, our customer support agents will reach out to you. They'll leverage, just make your order in. Our team at support@bioptimizers.com will answer any of those specifics on shipping and all that sort of stuff to your country.
And we have the best CS team, I think, in the industry. And Wade's been spearheading that. I don't think you're going to find anyone that cares about customer support as much as Wade. And incredible team. We got Bernice with us tonight. The whole team's world class. We strive to truly blow your mind, not just with the products, but the actual service itself. So again, if there's no other questions, we will just remind you one last time, bioptimizebrain.com/go. And yeah, just pick the package that makes sense for you based on what level of world domination you want. If you want brilliance on demand and have access to dosages based on the times you want to have an extraordinary day, it's a great option. For most people, focus ferocity makes sense. But if you're like Wade and I want to, make a difference in the world, right? So yeah, world domination is a little bit of tongue in cheek there, but it's really about being able to accomplish our missions. And we're extremely determined to accomplish our mission of helping you and everyone else become biologically optimized. And the mind, the brain is a huge part of the picture. And as far as performance and quality of life, it's possibly the most important.
Beautifully said. I want to thank both of our co-hosts tonight, Matt, who has literally worked around the clock for months to make this happen. And of course, Mr. Noots, the man that's made this all possible and has taken what was a truly personal tragedy and transformed it into an incredible offer to the world. And I want to thank you for joining us and taking the time out of your busy schedule. I want you to get back to that wonderful partner that you have, and I look forward to seeing you real soon. And to Matt, it was really awesome to see you share such a personal story in your own life and how I've witnessed it firsthand. And I've watched Matt.
We saw it all.
I saw it all. I experienced it all. We fought the wars, and we come out the other side. And in the darkest moment, and we know there's people out there that might be in that, in the darkest moments, Matt and I sat together, and I said, wouldn't it be great if we got and came back from this and finished the mission that we were sent here, what we believe by God to do. And by God, here we are doing it. And it wouldn't happen without you, our customers. We feel that you're part of our extended family. And we just love sharing these things with you. We love your feedback. It helps us do a better job. And we want to thank you for being part of our family, part of this webinar. And we are excited to hear your results and how they transform everybody that you touch in your life. So thanks for joining us. Again, bioptimizersbrain.com/go. We'll see you on the next webinar.
Thank you,
Thanks,
brother.
everyone. Love you all.
All right. Thank you, brother. Late.